Brace yourselves, Detroit. As the sun begins to set, two of Woodward Sports' brightest young stars will be taking the mic for a brand new show. Woodward Nights with Booner and Broder. The dog days in Detroit are over, and the boys are unleashed. Join in on the banter and hop on the bandwagon of the #1 night show on the internet. Tune in to the Woodward Sports YouTube channel every weeknight from 8 to 10 p.m. Woodward Nights with Booner and Broder.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network. Let's get into it. It's Wednesday, January 3rd. Man, oh man, lot to break down today. We're going to get more into the Lions game that we weren't able to do yesterday, but Jeff Ifredi, as always, Sam Flannel, Brandon Dett, JB, same crew as always. Feels good to have the whole crew here for a week, man. It does.
Oh, yes.
I missed the guys. We're all here. We broke down a lot of Michigan, Alabama. If you missed any of that, you can go back and watch it. It's still on our YouTube. But today, we're going to spend a lot of time kind of going through Lions, Dallas, maybe a little bit of Minnesota and Lions this weekend for the final game of the year. Should they rest players? How much should they rest certain players? We'll get into that maybe a little bit today, maybe mostly tomorrow. I do want to answer phone calls today. We're going to take phone calls at 9 o'clock, 9:15. Second hour, we'll save that. We're going to get to you guys. If you guys want to call in, feel free to. We'll have the number later in the show. But welcome in, everybody. Sam Flannel. Coming off still that high from Monday. How you feeling?
Well, I wish that was the only football game that had happened the previous week, but today, unfortunately, we got to talk about the bad game. The good game was what was Monday, at least for us Michigan fans here, and I was on a high, but today at some point we have to address what happened in the Lions-Cowboys game, because I think we were all pretty deflated after that. I don't think many of us watched much football on Sunday. That's what I've been hearing.
It's nice to watch football on Sunday when the Lions play on Saturday when they win, and technically they did win. But then it got ripped from them. But regardless, we watched them win. Things changed. We'll get into that breakdown. Dean Blandino apparently had a Lions hat, trying to speak to Lions fans,
Lions Nation.
I don't think it landed how he expected it to land. It didn't hit. And then of course the NFL with a double middle finger to Lions Nation with that tutorial video for all NFL teams on how to properly report someone as eligible. And here's the confusing part with this whole thing is when I saw the video and I watched it, I sat there. It's one of the most laughable things I've ever seen. And you're watching the video and you're going, yeah, this is awesome. Like we know how to report, correctly report because we did that. It was done correctly. Jared Goff went over, told Decker to go report. He went over to go report to the referee that he's eligible. And, of course, Skipper goes with him because, if he goes by himself, then Dallas immediately knows it's Decker. That's the point of – it's like anything in football. It's like disguising coverage. You're sending another guy with Decker to maybe confuse the defense a little bit, even though they'll know who's eligible because it's announced in the stadium. But it's something as stupid as that. It's the failure to do your job, but somehow the NFL – out of all the crap that came out on Saturday, the NFL's mindset was, let's just remind the league how to correctly do it. Rather than, and I get they took, Brad Allen, I believe that's his name, Brad Allen, his crew from the playoffs. So there was, I don't even want to call it punishment, but there was something done, but that was just ridiculous. I mean, you can't deny that. It's dumb as hell.
Well, the problem is that the officials, they obviously effed up royally in that Cowboys-Lions game. You could say effed up or you could say something more nefarious, but I will go with effed up on that one. But the problem is that there was no accountability. There was no even remorse or anything like that. And we've seen precedents with officials having remorse or umpires having remorse, i.e. Jim Joyce when he blew Armando Galarraga's perfect game. I know football's a different sport, but still, there's no remorse, there's no accountability. I mean, I get it. His crew is going to be downgraded to out for the playoffs, but I believe they are reffing a game this weekend, a game with playoff implications, which isn't good as well.
Steelers versus Ravens.
Yes, and I mean, and that's where we're all those are like things that make you go, and that's I think what we have the most problem with. I mean, obviously the call helped cost the Lions a win against the Cowboys, but they're just now they're kind of doubling down and tripling down and quadrupling down, and it's almost like they're laughing in our face at this point. Just kind of say, like, we screwed you, and now we're just going to make a video and showing evidence on how the said screwing happened, while saying, wait a minute, this is actually how you're supposed to report. And then we're like, wait a minute, but it wasn't John Skipper. It's not the way that we wanted the NFL to handle it throughout the week.
And the video had Dan Skipper as he's the one that reported eligible.
I said John Skipper.
Even
Dan
though
Skipper.
he did not report as eligible. It was very clear.
We have the video, too, if you want to play it.
You have the referee.
Yeah, the changing position. Here you go.
All right, here's the video. Oh, my God.
As a reminder to clubs and players, an offensive player numbered 50 through 79 or 90 through 99 is permitted to line up as an eligible pass receiver. To allow the defense an opportunity to match personnel to avoid deception and to ensure fairness,
And
the
they sent
player
this to
must
all
immediately
clubs
report
in the
the
NFL.
change in his eligibility status to the
That's
referee,
mockery.
who will inform the defensive
It's
team
like you're
and
mansplaining
will
a
make
rule
an
to
announcement
someone.
to the stadium before that play. It is the responsibility of the player to
This
be sure
video
that
should have
change
just
in
been in
status
Brad Allen's
is
inbox.
clearly communicated
Nobody else.
to the referee by both a physical signal with his hands up and down in front of his chest, and to report to the referee his intention to report as an eligible receiver. Any player reporting as eligible must line up initially and remain in an eligible position.
Yeah, it's literally not even
Failure
Dan.
to do so,
And they circled
or
Dan
if
Yeah,
he
it's
is
not even
covered
Dan
up
Skipper.
by
Like,
another player, will result in an illegal formation.
You know what's even worse about this whole thing is the fact that Dan let the
Should the
crew
reporting
know
player elect to
before they
remain
did
in the
this,
game for an additional play,
knowing that this
he
potentially
must
could
repeat
happen,
the same reporting
and it still
process to the
happened that
referee.
way.
And before each additional play, the referee will inform the defensive team. This process has been in place for many years and is intended to provide proper notification to the defense when players are lined up in positions that their number would not allow.
All right, that's
Yeah, it's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. Now, the big question I have is, and this just might, and by the way, we're going to keep the complaining to a minimum because I don't want to spend too much time just talking about the refs, but I want to get this out the way and just make fun of how dumb that video is and how pointless that video is. The question I have is, if the shoes were reversed and the Dallas Cowboys reported someone as eligible and they made the incorrect call, how big of a deal would it actually be? Is it just because it's the Lions, or is it just because this happened and any team this could have happened to, it wouldn't have mattered? That's where I'm like, I'm curious.
I think the better question is, and that's a great question, by the way, but here's how I'm going to phrase it. If it happened to the Dallas Cowboys, would Cowboys fans be up and armed and outraged? Absolutely. If it happened to the Green Bay Packers, would Green Bay Packers fans be up in arms? Absolutely. If it happened to even the Kansas City Chiefs, would Chiefs fans be up in arms? 100%. And that's the way that I choose to frame all of this, because yes, and we'll get into it more in the next segment. I'm not going to 100% blame the refs for everything that happened in that game. There were some things that the Lions could have done differently, as are in most games where the refs screw you. But at the same time, if you're one of those fans of the Cowboys who are just saying get over it, I know that you guys wouldn't get over it if it happened to you. That's all that I'm saying. If it would have happened to, I would say, Michigan in the college football playoff or something like that, I would have been absolutely outraged, probably even more outraged than I was at it happening to the Lions. So that's kind of how I look at it as.
Yeah, and regardless, are there things that the Lions could have done in the ball game to change the outcome besides, just the referees messing up? Of course. I mean, I didn't even like the fact that Dan went for it on the and tried to get a 2-point conversion on the 7-yard line. Like, to me, it's not smart. Like, there's other things we could bring up. Now, the drive where you convert a fake punt, you get down the field and you go for it and don't get it. To me, that's dumb. Now, there's other things you could point in the football game to be like, well, if this doesn't happen, or you don't do this, or you do this, you win that football game. So that's why I didn't want to spend too much time talking about just this one mistake, because it is a huge mistake. I mean, we watched the Lions win the football game, and then, of course, that happens. But I don't want to just say that's all that happened. That's all that was the difference in the game, because there was other things that I think specifically Dan Campbell could have done better. But Kool-Aid, I see you're pissed off, rightfully so.
Man, I was avoiding that video, and you know what makes that video even more dumb? Is that they say that the proper way to report is verbal and signal. The one thing all of us in this room know, and the one thing that Brad Allen knows, is that Dan Skipper didn't say nothing to him. It's like the video is admitting that they're wrong, but the NFL still won't step up. Bro, did we even get our cheap apology letter yet?
No.
Like, that's what I'm saying. You spent the time to send this video out just to further put into some type of video medium that, yeah, we screwed up, but we're going to still try and put this on the Lions. That's my problem. If it happened to any other team, it's not the same, because it's not as it is to the Lions year after year after year after year. That's the problem, is that we've been costed playoff positioning. We've been costed playoff spots. We've been costed wins. We've been costed opportunities to win the division every single year, and we got the apology letters to prove it. Mm-hmm. This isn't happening at this rate to other teams. So it's not necessarily about, this one play. This is about the fact that how many of us have faith that they're not going to do this again in the playoffs? That's the problem. That's the whole point of this thing. Get it right, because the most perfect people on the field is not supposed to be Dan Campbell or the players or the opponents. It's the refs. They're supposed to be. There's no defense against them. The reason why Dan Campbell's doing what he's doing is because there's a defense out there. They're losing players. You go to overtime, you trust that in Jerry's world? No. I get it. I get what people are saying. It's dumb, it's dumb, it's dumb, it's dumb.
Right.
You're at the 7. I don't trust overtime in Jerry's world. You got to go out there and put your team in position to say, we're at your jugular, and we're going to force you guys to screw us. And that's what Dan did, to the point that even the NFL world in large part is saying the Lions got screwed. And that's the reality of this thing. It's not just one play. It's constant. The one thing that we can put side by side with same old Lions for the last 60 years is same old NFL for continuing to screw over the Lions and give us a little apology letter, dust their hands off, and walk away. Mm-hmm. It's trash to me, man.
No, and that's really well said. I think a lot of Lions fans can relate with you. I think at least the benefit of this whole thing is now it's been very public, and it wasn't in a playoff atmosphere. That's all I can think about. And Dan Campbell talked about it, and I do think this will motivate them even more. Yeah. Not saying I want this to happen, not saying I want the Lions to lose. I wanted the 2 seed. But Sam, at the end of the day, if you're taking away if you're trying to look at it glass half full, at least you could say this is going to piss them off. It's like what Hutch said after the game. I'd rather win in the playoffs against the Cowboys. This is only going to motivate them. Which the frustrating part is it'll be in Dallas.
Well, at the end of the day, as much as we want to say that the Lions actually won that game and it got taken away from them, it doesn't reflect that in the standings. And the Lions have to move on. They have to enjoy the fact that they're going to win the division and get the 3 seed and hopefully win that playoff game and get another chance against Dallas at Dallas. I mean, we shall see. And I think this is going to test the resolve of this team and the resolve of Dan Campbell and the resolve of some of the other coaching staff and the best players, is that can they move on from this? Can they use this as fuel? Can they use this as motivation? Can they get the ultimate get back in Dallas in the divisional round? I mean, how great of poetic justice would that be? And I think that's what they have to use moving forward, because you can't change it. You can't change the result, even though it pisses us all off. I know a lot of us as fans have still not gotten over it, but the players, they have no choice. They're professionals. They have to.
And they put their body on the line for that type of result. I'll tell you what, let's go to break. When we come back, we'll break down the game more in depth. We weren't able to get to it yesterday. Some of our takeaways, all that and more. But first, got to hear about our friends from Lady Jane's.
Absolutely. Lady Jane's. Come to Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men, where they give me my A+ haircuts, because they are A+ stylists. Ooh. For an award-winning haircut experience. Register to win a trip of your dreams. And all expenses paid suite for the 2024 NCAA tournament. That's right. No expense spared for you and 5 of your best buds. Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men, open 7 days a week. Walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome.
Join Woodward Sports' own Jeff Iafrate, along with special WSN guests for the most anticipated Lions season in decades. Filled with different surprises and expert analysis. You're not going to want to miss out. Go to our Woodward Sports YouTube channel on Sundays and tune in live from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m.
We've just received word. The world's cannabis supply has vanished. The public is outraged and has taken to the streets in response to this tragedy. The individual responsible acted alone, and we can only hope they will make things right soon.
What happens when you run a great business for over 50 years? You expand and offer more products to more people. This is exactly what Les Stanford did by adding Les Stanford Buick GMC, the same great service that customers have come to know and trust on Woodward Avenue, just south of 9 Mile. Check out Les Stanford in Dearborn today. Find the brand you want at lesstanford.com. We're back, Morning Woodward Show, Woodward Sports Network, breaking down Lions, Cowboys. We got the ref stuff out of the way, right? I don't want to hear about it. You know, did the Lions try and confuse the refs? No, it's all deception, which that's welcome to the game of football. It's all about deception. So if you're new to this, then I alerted you of that. It's all deception, right? So I don't want to hear that. But we're moving on from it. Let's get into our takeaways because that's what's important from the game on Saturday. Win, loss, draw, doesn't matter. What did you take away from the football game? And Sam Flannel, for me, I think I learned a ton about this football team and their resiliency because they went into Dallas, a environment in which the Cowboys average 40 a game. They blow out every team they face in Dallas, including the Eagles, and the Lions went toe-to-toe with them defensively, which is really the most impressive part of this entire football game is what they did defensively to this high-powered Cowboys offense. I know CeeDee Lamb got his, and he had a hell of a game, but really, if you look at the box score, they allowed 7 points in the first half, and that was off a missed sack, should have been a safety from Derek Barnes. So if you look at it like that, and that was an 80, 90-yard pass, a big play to CeeDee Lamb, touchdown. But besides that, they played great in the first half. Second half, they allowed 13. I think the defense was really the biggest part of what happened on Saturday. Yeah, the offense, they hung in there, they battled. It's tough when you're running the football, and for the majority of the time, they're getting tackled in the backfield. It was just not a great game to me from this offensive line. It is what it is. You're not going to have games like you typically have where you're just running the football effortlessly on every single defense. There's going to be times where you're going to struggle to run the football. It is what it is. But I think the defense is one of my bigger takeaways. And then you go to offensively, right? And like I said, they hung in there. Dallas, at least their pass rush, I mean, Jared was only sacked once. So in pass protection, I think they did a good job of getting the ball out. Now the problem is, and this is where, this could be an issue in the playoffs. Now you have to see with a defense like this, they like to take the football away. And Jared had 2 interceptions. And I get they were both great defensive plays. Don't get me wrong. The first one, it was a jump. It looked like basically a screen play. And the route was jumped. The second one, it was Laporta to Laporta, and it was a great defensive play. But regardless, you can't turn the ball over twice. You just can't, especially when you're playing a team that's just as good as you. Like the room for error is very small, and when you're turning the football over, you're immediately, especially with a defense like the Lions, and they've been playing really well, and they still held up. You cannot turn the football over. That is, and again, those are on Jared Goff. I can't just sit here and excuse him and say, well, they're just great defensive plays. You can't turn the football over. Jared Goff didn't have his best game. He almost had a 50% completion percentage, so you just can't do it. 31.9 quarterback rating. So defensively was one of my biggest takeaways, Sam, because if the defense can play like that on the road, I have faith this offense can bounce back. I think Jared can bounce. These guys we know that's not typically what they show. They're a top 5 offense. So if you get that type of defense in the postseason, they're going to win more than a playoff game. I'll tell you that. And I think the very floor is winning a playoff game because that defense, and you're getting help back. Liam McNeil, C.J. Gardner-Johnson coming back. I love what I saw out of the defense, and credit to AG for his adjustments as well. Iffy, welcome. The guy just keeps making plays. You're starting to see guys just continue to get better, and that's what it's all about here. I mean, Jack Campbell, although they missed a call on him, I thought he had a pretty good game. So overall, the number one thing for me, I'll start with it, is that defense, because telling you one thing. They need that defense come postseason time, Sam Flannel.
That was very well said about the defense because they played one of their best games of the year without a shadow of a doubt. The problem is, and here's where I kind of want to turn the page on the whole ref stuff and kind of break down the game a little bit more. I remember in the post-game show, and it was probably the most explosive moment of them all. Terrell from FL, one of our favorite people who calls in, sometimes he hits home runs and sometimes he strikes out, but he had a very heated conversation with Stick. And I know the end result of that phone call was Stick basically, according to most, roasting him. But I thought Terrell from FL made up had some good points in that one. He pointed to some things that the Lions could have done that would have ensured that maybe it wouldn't have even come down to that. And of course, Stick was he wasn't completely excusing the loss, but he was definitely excusing Jared Goff and was definitely just kind of saying, oh, this is actually a good thing. We can look at it as positive. And I thought, and here's the point of all this, and here's why I want to bring this up. Because the refs, obviously, they did make an egregious mistake at the end, or mistake. I'm not I'll just say that, an egregious mistake. But here's the reality of the situation. Jared Goff threw 2 interceptions. The Lions had four possessions in Cowboys territory in the first half and only managed 3 points. The Lions only scored 19 points in the game. They gave up 227 yards to CeeDee Lamb, and I would say a borderline MVP caliber performance from Dak. If it wasn't for Lamar Jackson going crazy this weekend, you might think that Dak Prescott had elevated into one of the MVP frontrunners, but he'll still get some votes. And, oh, by the way, it wasn't just the first half in which the Lions had 4 possessions in Cowboys territory and only managed 3 points. They also forced 2 back-breaking turnovers by the Cowboys, 1 interception on 3rd and 4 in Lions territory by Iffy, and, of course, CeeDee Lamb fumbling the ball out of bounds, and they were down 7-3 at halftime. And, oh, by the way, when it was 17-13 and Jared Goff had a chance to lead the Lions down the field to where they could score and it wouldn't come down to a 2-point conversion, he throws a bad interception. So the reality is that in some ways the Lions offense let the defense down. I get it. The defense gave up a lot of yards to CeeDee, gave up a big day to Dak Prescott, but at the end of the day, we kind of knew that this was coming, and we've seen the Lions win some games in which they have given up big games to guys like Chris Olave and Justin Jefferson in recent weeks, for example. But the Lions, they forced a couple of turnovers, and that's what you need to do in these games. They're never going to shut anybody down, but they have to be bend but don't break in a lot of ways that they were. And they also benefited from Aiden Hutchinson having one of the best games of his career. I would say the best game of his career, but it was the offense, it was the mistakes. And oh, by the way, even when, and this is just me, even when they missed that 2-point conversion, I wouldn't have got, or the 2-point conversion was taken away from them. I misspoke. I would not have went for it. I would have not went for 2 from the 7-yard line. Fortunately for them, Micah Parsons jumped, and then they got an easier. They had it from like the 3.5 or the 4, but then they throw a pass to James Mitchell. For some reason, for reason only God, your mama, and me knows. I get it. Sam Laporta was hobbled and Brock Wright was out, but Amon-Ra was in there, Jahmyr Gibbs was in there, David Montgomery was in there, Josh Reynolds was in there. You couldn't have come up with something better than that. And oh, by the way, that was a bad ball by Jared Goff, but James Mitchell probably still could have caught it. The reality is that as much as we want to complain about the refs, and damn did they screw us, there was a lot of things that the Lions could have done better. And oh, by the way, are we 100% sure that the Cowboys wouldn't have drove it down the field and led and kicked a game-winning field goal? I get it. There wasn't a lot of time left, but if they get a touchback, Dak Prescott could complete like a 30-yarder to CeeDee, maybe another 10-yarder, and then they have the best kicker in the league. I'm not saying that would have happened, and I think we would all feel a lot better if the 2-point conversion would have been allowed to stand and the Cowboys would have just made that drive. We would have said it was fair and square, but still, a lot of people are just, I also don't agree with the whole, like, we actually won the game. It just doesn't reflect in the standings. I think they probably would have if it wasn't for that 2-point conversion. It's just, I want some responsibility for the team. That's what I want. A little bit of personal responsibility for the team. I'm not saying I take personal responsibility because I wasn't playing. It's just, they did a lot of things wrong offensively, and I'm not just going to excuse that and gloss over that.
Game on the line. Give me James Mitchell. No, I'm serious. That was awful. But I get it at the same time because, like, what other options did he have? James Mitchell, he tried to get him the football. It didn't work out. It is what it is. Why don't we rewind because you could bring up the James Mitchell play, but what about the play before halftime, the drive before halftime for the Lions there? I guess the second to last drive before halftime, because that to me, and this is the thing with Dan Campbell, and I want to say this really quickly. I think Dan Campbell is a good coach. I do. Like, I'm in full support of Dan Campbell. But things like this make me, it's a cause for concern for me. Because, and this is people's immediate defense, or for Dan Campbell as well. If he goes for it and he makes it, you're the first one to sit there and say, good job, Dan. And if he doesn't, you're the first to say, well, you're an idiot, Dan. No, that's not how I work. Regardless if it works or not, I already have an opinion about the decision. And I thought the decision before halftime, after they converted the fake punt to go for it, was idiotic. It was dumb. It was stupid. And that, to me, is a lack of a feel for the game. To me, it's 3-7. You take this time, not only you had to convert a damn fake punt to get down in field goal range. Like, it was 4th down, you convert a fake punt, you drive all the way down the field. You can't leave that drive with nothing. You can't. You have to show something for that drive. Take the 3. Take the field goal. Make it 6-7 going into halftime. That, to me, is dumb. You're on the road. Your defense is playing well, which is something we haven't not seen at much against a team like this all year. And you do that? And then if you kick the field goal, we don't even talk about the referees botching the game. You won because you would have been up 3. So you would have had 3 more points. So to me, that's just a lack of a feel for the game to me. And that, yes, it's the regular season. It is what it is. But you can't go into the playoffs and do that. Because I'm telling you one thing, for all the people that come at me or come at anybody else that question, how dare you question anything Dan Campbell does? Well, I don't want to hear you complain when in a playoff environment, something like that costs you a playoff game. I don't want to hear you complain about it because I've been consistent. If it bothers me, I'll bring it up. And that decision before halftime was dumb, Sam. It was dumb.
Of course.
Outright dumb.
Of course it was. And I'm glad you mentioned that because I don't think I was specific enough on the whole 4 drives in Cowboy territory culminating in just 3 points. And that was the most egregious one of them all because it came off of, I think, the Lions saving the game in that point when Kendall Vildor forced CeeDee Lamb to fumble out the back of the end zone when the Cowboys were going in for a touchdown that would have put them ahead 14-3. Instead, the Cowboys were only up 7-3, and the Lions got the ball back as a touchback, and then they did on that drive. They converted a 4th and 2 fake punt, which was absolutely huge. But here's how that drive ultimately ended: the Lions had 1st and goal at the Cowboys 2 and ended up with nothing. That's not okay. And that's why I say for people who are harping on the refs too much, and by the way, it was bad. It was really, really bad. You can't expect to go into Dallas and do that and win that game. And oh, by the way, that wasn't the only one. On one of the drives, the Lions were 2nd and 4 at the Cowboys 36, and on the next 2 plays, they lost 11 yards. And they were 1st and 10 at the Dallas 38 in the other one, and Jared Goff threw that interception. That's the thing. They had a chance in the first half to go into halftime with a lead, or maybe even a multiple score lead because of the way that they forced turnovers and the way that the Lions were able to pretty much move the ball to some extent, but the Lions just could not take advantage. And that 4th down from the 4-yard line, that was the worst of them all. They ended up with 0 points. That's just demoralizing. It's unacceptable.
Sam Flannel, it was an 11-play drive. It was an 11-play drive, including a conversion of a fake punt. You converted a fake punt.
Yes.
And you leave with nothing.
Nothing.
You can't leave that drive with 0 points for how hard you worked, and all the players worked to get downfield. Even on the 1 yard, even though they didn't get a touchdown, that's fine. You take the 3. And I want to read some of these comments here because just to give my response to this. Funky, if they kick that field goal, it changes the whole game. Dallas wouldn't have started the drive at the 4. People think it would have just as simple as if they kick here, they win. It's not. I'm not saying guarantee a win, but let's just be real here. Funky, they allowed 7 in the first half, and if you kick that field goal, you're up 3. I get it. They wouldn't have started where they started with the football, but your defense, again, that's feel for the game. Analytics doesn't have that. Analytics doesn't allow you to have feel for the game. It gives you percentages. If you do this, the percentage of you winning is this. feel for the game is different. And Dan Campbell, you cannot convince me he has not been in the NFL as a player, as an assistant coach, and as a coach long enough to understand that. Booner, he's still a young head coach in this league, coaching a Super Bowl caliber team for the first time. He's learning, just like all these players in these situations. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sam. Wasn't he a part of a Super Bowl winning organization in New Orleans?
Well, yes, and here's how I will respond.
Around
to this.
one of the greatest coaches of all time.
And here's how I will respond to Booner with this one. At some point, though, you can't be making decisions like that, because if you make decisions like that in the playoffs, you might not even go to the Super Bowl.
And I'll just say this: I don't give a damn. I don't want my head coach learning on the job. Like I don't know if you guys are just cool with that. Like that, Dan Campbell's been in this league long enough as a player and as a coach. There's no learning. Like maybe certain situations off the field, if you're learning and experimenting on the field with a team that has high aspirations, it ain't gonna work.
His offensive play calling, though, it does remind me of Sean Payton. If you remember the playoff game against the Saints, how many times did they punt? Even in situations where it seemed dumb to go for it, the Saints housed the Lions because every fourth down they went for it because of analytics. And I think that's where he gets that from. The issue is this Lions offense just isn't as talented. The Lions defense is not putting them in the same positions that the Saints were putting them in, and that's where I think it compounds the issues. Mm-hmm. You got to take the points where you can get them. I agree 100% with you on
Absolutely. And again, I love Dan. I'm not saying fire Dan or anything like that. Dan's fine. I think he's a great coach. But learning on the job, guys, don't excuse behavior, please. Like, that's ridiculous. And imagine that. Well, he's just learning. He's learning on the job. Dan, take all the time you need. Learn as much as you need. No, dude. You hold him accountable for dumb decisions. End of story.
And for the record, because Jeff, your tone was a little bit, I would say, harsh. Dan Campbell has done a great job this year overall, but that was 100% not acceptable. And the reality is that the Lions had the opportunity to get the coveted 10-point swing where they made CeeDee Lamb fumble out the back of the end zone, got the ball back, and instead of being down 14-3, you're only down 7-6 if you at least get some points. It is 100,000% demoralizing to a team when you start a drive first and goal at the 2 and you end up missing a fourth down from the 4. That's just, it wasn't even from the 1. It wasn't even something where they could maybe quarterback sneak or run it with Montgomery. They had to run a pass play. Oh, by the way, against a pass rush that is the pass rush for the Cowboys didn't have their best day that day because the Cowboys offensive line, particularly Penei Sewell, is so good, but they are dangerous and they missed it. And they were pretty much that, I wouldn't say that put him behind the 8 ball too much, but it definitely did to some extent. The reality is there are so many different things that the offense could have done better to avoid having to have it come down to referee incompetence. That does not in any way, shape, or form make the referee incompetence acceptable. I think some people have completely whitewashed a lot of the game from their memories and whitewashed a lot of the mistakes that the offense made, and all they remember is that Jared Goff drive at the end of the game. They didn't remember all of the times when the offense failed, 100% failed. 2 Jared Goff interceptions and getting 0 points while having first and goal from the opponent's 2-yard line after missing a fourth down. You're not going to win any games that way, especially going to Dallas. Honestly, in a lot of ways, the Lions were probably lucky that they were even that close. And I mean, a lot of that too is due to, and we can laugh about this.
Nobody, and I say this, nobody is absolved from blame. Nobody. Like, Dan Campbell is one of my favorite human beings. He's actually funny as hell, and he's a great guy. He is. Great human being, a family man, and I think he's going to be the head coach of the Lions for a long time. But it does not excuse him from criticism. It just doesn't. And if you do something stupid or you do something reckless, you're going to be called out for it. And yes, the referees, they screwed the Lions. I 100% agree. But you know what else screwed the Lions is not taking points when you had them. Guys, the whole point of in the NFL, you score more than the opponent, you win. Ooh, that's how that works. So if you take points, you know what I mean? Now, there's situations where you could argue, well, go for it. Yes, I agree with that. But you have to have a feel for the game. This game was how it was going was low scoring. It was a defensive game. It's how it played out. Every single point mattered. It mattered. And Dan Campbell didn't think to take the 3 to make it 6-7. And that's his call, and it ended up playing out that way. And now people would say, well, Jeff, they won the game, right? They got the 2-point conversion. I get that. But you would have never. And by the way, I think they should have just kicked the extra point. To be honest, if we
100%.
want to go that far, I mean, we should go to overtime.
Yeah.
Have a chance to compete for the 2 seed, guys. This game is huge. That game was huge. That game decided who ultimately, basically, who's going to have the 2 seed. That game did. This isn't just a week 6 game. We'll get them next time.
Mm-hmm.
No, that game could be the difference between you going to Dallas and Dallas coming to Detroit. That's why it's frustrating. And if you can't see that, I'm sorry. If you want to say, well, Jeff, Dan Campbell, he's fine. He'll be all right. I agree. But are we just going to excuse that game? That game was huge, Sam. Having Dallas come to Ford Field, maybe I'm on an island, is much more ideal.
Yeah, I think.
Is that crazy?
No,
Okay.
That's not crazy.
So that's how I feel about this situation. Yeah, it's frustrating. Regardless, moving forward, hopefully in the playoffs, you just take the points, please.
I think.
Unless the situation absolutely calls for it. But again, feel for the game. In that football game, you take the points.
I think that to put a bow on all of this, the fact that this loss was so costly in terms of seeding, it makes the referees' incompetence, it makes that like 10 times more glaring, but it also makes that decision by Dan Campbell to go for it from 4th and 4 in Dallas territory, that makes it more glaring. It makes the Jared Goff 2 interceptions more glaring. It makes the, we didn't even mention this, the Derek Barnes missed safety more glaring. It's just, as I keep saying, usually I don't like to blame the refs, but in this case, that played a huger role in the Lions losing than refs do most of the time, and almost all of the time. But I will never just say that the Lions played some masterful or perfect game and the refs took it away.
Let me read this one.
It's not in my DNA.
Because this one's funny. Tailgate gang. Morning Woodward, chill. Bunch of hypocrites. When Dan makes those decisions, they work. Oh, damn. Balls of steel. Now he's a bad coach. He makes bad decisions when they don't work. There's a time to, again, this is why I'm going to repeat myself. Feel for the game. If your defense can't get a stop, I 100% agree with you, tailgate gang. You go for it. Because you're like, well, if I give the ball back to my defense, they're going to score. Did you watch the football game? Was that defense, they couldn't get a stop, right?
They got plenty.
They got plenty, right? Is that just making sure? Feel for the game. That's why when I say, I don't like when people say that back to me. Well, if you would have got it, you would have no problem. No, I'd still have a problem. Because, again, like the fake punt there, didn't like it. It worked out. Cool, great. All right. You needed to get a conversion. You needed to continue that drive. I get it. I understand it. I can make sense of it. Not taking points after that made no sense. It made no sense. Not walk away with that from that drive with 3. It just didn't. That's all I'm saying. And if they won the game, I'd still bring it up, guys, because that's something you want to be watching out for moving forward. Like, yeah, if they won that game, I would have said, phew, they won the game. But don't do that in the playoffs, Dan, please. I would have brought it up regardless, just making sure I'm consistent with that.
And here's the reality, and I can't believe I have to say this for the 1,000th time. Just because Dan Campbell converted on called a nice fake punt a time or two and you liked it and you appreciated the result, i.e. the Kansas City Chiefs game or even in this Dallas Cowboys game, does not mean you have to agree with every single gamble he ever takes. I'm getting a little bit tired of the gatekeeping because the reality is, and I know a lot of you aren't going to like this, it is okay to judge things in hindsight if they don't work. Wow, what a crazy concept. The gatekeeping just drives me insane. It's one of my least favorite things that fans do. Stop it. It didn't work. It played a role in the Lions losing.
It's like, guys, think of it, and it seems like we bring this up multiple times a year, and even Stick, who is the biggest Lions slappy, hates this. He hates when Dan does in certain situations. Yes. Yeah, it's frustrating. Even on Thanksgiving, I was in attendance. They had 4 drives from the Packers. They held the Packers to 3 points in 4 drives. He goes for it, easy touchdown for the Packers. It spiraled after that.
Yes.
It's feel for the game. And again, if you guys are perfectly okay and defend Dan no matter what, that's your prerogative. That's okay. Defend him no matter what. But I swear to gosh, if they lose a playoff game, and you guys are not, I'm not saying all you guys, but I know who it is. You come in the chat and you're like, damn, why did Dan do that? I'm gonna, I cannot wait. I cannot wait. And I'm not saying I want him to lose, but I don't want to hear you coming in and complaining that Dan Campbell made the wrong decision. Because like I said, you're defending him no matter what, right? Dan Campbell's absolved from criticism, right?
No, I don't think that's the whole issue here.
Then what is it?
I'm not saying we can criticize Dan Campbell for all these plays, but that's not going to stop him from still being that aggressive gambler that he is. And I think in the playoff, you might see a little bit more of that. He's not going to sit here and just play a plain, simple game. As Booner has said in the chat, he's learning on the job over these 2 years. He's learned that sitting back and just letting the game play out is not how you should do it. He wants to be a little bit more aggressive. And as Flannel said, it's okay to sit here and come back after the game and criticize. But still, he's going to try and win the game regardless. Yes, I know we would have loved to have sit here and taken those points the second or third time the refs called the flag and we could actually sit here and go into overtime. But let's be real. The defense, Cam Sutton's out here getting cooked by CeeDee Lamb. Do you really want to see this wide receiver get 300 yards and 2-3 touchdowns now? No, I don't want to see that. If I'm going to be the aggressor, then yes, I'm going to attempt to try and win this game. Hell, we don't know what the defense was feeling at that time. They could have been gassed. But yes, I know this game was important. But it still showed that the Lions and Dan Campbell can sit here and hang with anyone in the NFL. And I don't think we will be too upset about that if it does pay off in the playoffs.
And this is what is frustrating. Whenever you have one thing to say about something you disagree with Dan, you're hating, you don't like Dan.
Well,
so I'm supposed to sit up here and say, you know what, guys, I loved his decision not to take points on a drive that you had 11 plays and you converted a fake punt. I loved it.
And I thought that was
I thought it was gritty. Come on.
No, I listen, man. I think you set it up well. And you have a whole season's worth of content where you have praised Dan Campbell aptly. And even in some of that praise, even in some wins, you said, well, I wish these things were different. I wish some of these things were different. And that's fair, guys. Nobody's going to be perfect. They're not. They're all reading and reacting to what they think the other team is going to do and what they think their team is capable of. And I do believe that there is a little bit of, like I said earlier, Dan Campbell believing a lot in his team, more so than what his team's capability actually is. If you got that high-powered offense, if you got that high-powered wide receiver that you know can go out there and make that, you got that high-powered tight end, but they were hobbled at the end of the game. It was a bad decision. I get his aggressiveness, and I do believe a little bit of that Seattle game earlier in the year where he was less aggressive. I think that was playing and weighing a little bit more in his mind because I think he went away from who he was as a coach, and that cost him a game. This one, he went a little bit more with who he is as a coach, and this one probably cost him a game as well.
Yeah, and thank you. It's okay to admit that.
Yeah.
It's like if I say something like that, I'm a hater. And it's okay. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, if you actually have listened to this show, you know I'm not a hater, but it is what it is. Like this comment, just a fan, Jeff I'm a very decisive guy, like I always say, on one hand, but on the other hand, shut up, Jeff. You're the most wishy-washy person. Welcome to the show, just a fan. You must not tune in much because
goodness.
No, that sounds like something Neil Rule said. So please, I get it, but that's Neil Rule. If you guys actually know Neil, that's a joke. Like the fact that he's saying that means he actually believes what Neil says is true. But just a fan, no, I am not. I've been consistent. What I say on Thanksgiving, the Packers, that game, lack of a feel for the game. It's the same thing. Is MCDC still my coach? Yes. I argued. This is where people forget. It's funny, right? Me and you argued. What should Dan Campbell win Coach of the Year? Who was arguing for Dan?
You were.
What are we doing? Like, you know what I mean? I don't know, dude. It's like you say one thing, you're a hater. You're a hater. It's okay.
Well,
I didn't like it though. I'll stand on that.
Well,
I didn't like it.
Just a fan. We've had our battles, but we've also kumbaya'd a bit, especially with Michigan winning. But that was Class A Neilbot behavior by you at that point. And for the record, just so we put this out for the record, Dan Campbell, there were a couple of aggressive decisions in that game.
Right.
And for the record, I liked the initial goal for two, the one that they got and then was stolen from them. That was an aggressive decision that I actually liked. Did I like it when he didn't kick the extra point when it was called back and went back to the 7-yard line? No, I did not. So it's just, I think that there are clear and obvious situations when being aggressive would benefit the team. And going for it at 4th and goal from the Cowboys 4 with a chance to get some points with late in the second quarter, I think that was a bad decision. And I think it was a bad decision to not kick the extra point on the subsequent 2 extra point
And if
tries.
you want to bring up Seattle, him kicking the field goal going to OT, guys, how'd that game? What was the score of that game?
That was what was it, like 31-28?
What was the score of the Dallas Cowboys game? 2019? See the difference?
Yeah.
One's high scoring, one's not. When it's high scoring, I don't mind. You go for it because you know it's a shootout. Was that Dallas game a shootout?
No, it was supposed. We thought it would be, but it certainly was not.
Got it. Okay, so you get what I'm saying for feel of the game?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Seattle's a shootout. You figure, okay, if we go to OT and they get the ball, they're going to score immediately. Now, in this game against Dallas, if they got the ball, I'll tell you what, they were. I don't think it wouldn't be as easy to say that.
Well,
I don't think you could say, well, if Dallas gets the ball, they're going to score immediately. Well, they scored 7 in the first half. So, technically, the defense was getting stops.
Well,
it's feel for the game.
To JB's point earlier, and I think there's some merit in this. CeeDee Lamb was destroying the Lions secondary all day long, but at the end of the day, the Lions also did what they had to do defensively. They got a couple of timely turnovers. The pass rush led by Aiden Hutchinson Aiden Hutchinson completely wrecked the game, and the Cowboys at the end of the day only had scored 20 points, which was well below their season average, and well half of what they'd been averaging at home throughout the season. So I don't think it's as easy to say as the Cowboys would have driven right down the field and would have scored. But I'm not saying it couldn't have happened. I'm just saying in this particular game, I wouldn't have thought that the Lions were definitely going to lose if they went to overtime. I think they had a good chance.
In this comment, Booner, he did what you wanted in Seattle and it wasn't right. You're playing both sides now. Booner, listen, feel of the game. That game was a shootout. Going for it was necessary. It's all about what's going on in the football game, dude. That's how this works. If it's a shootout, you're not getting stops. I get it. But against Dallas, you were getting stops. So that's the point I'm making. But regardless, let's go to break. I want to get into different parts of the football game itself because we got through Dan Campbell, we got through the referees, we got all that stuff out of us. All right, now let's get into Aiden Hutchinson, Jamison Williams, because those are two players that did play well. Jamison left early with an injury, ankle injury, on a beautiful, beautiful play. Wide open downfield. Jared Goff hit him too, Sam Flannel.
Yeah, that was probably the best throw of Jared Goff's career. Give him some credit.
He broke free.
Yep.
So let's go to break. When we come back, we'll talk about that. Break down a little bit of Aiden Hutchinson too, because he again wrecked the game. We were asking for it all year. It happened. But first, got to hear about our friends from Dispo.
Start the new year lifted. Visit Dispo Dispensary today for exclusive new details. Experience Dispo Dispensary, a team that curates an unbelievable atmosphere mixed with fresh inventory from Michigan's largest variety of products. Come through our stores or order on Dispo Dash today. New year, new deals, same plug. Dispo Dispensary, DispoShops.com, your local cannabis plug.
Have you ever wondered where all the finest restaurants get their steaks? It's Fairway Packing Company, providing Michigan restaurants, hotels, and casinos with prime beef for over 60 years. But now you can buy these cuts of meat for yourself at the Steak Shop by Fairway Packing Company. Prime porterhouse, A5 Japanese New York strip steak, dry aged Wagyu beef tomahawk. Delicious. Get to the Steak Shop today. Enjoy fine wine, have a private party, and get the finest cuts of meat anywhere. The Steak Shop on Mack Avenue in Grosse Pointe Woods, or order online, fairwaypacking.com.
Where's the most convenient place to get that big fitness energy?
It's Planet Fitness.
Join today for just $1 down, $10 a month. With over 2,400 locations and equipment for every workout, you can get in, get energized, and get going. And with free fitness training and most clubs open 24 hours, everyone belongs in the judgment-free zone. So join today for $1 down, $10 a month, no commitment, cancel anytime.
At work and at home, we're there with smarter security solutions. Featuring complete automation with customized alerts and more. For over 90 years, we've been the company that's been counted on to protect what matters most, all with personalized service and care. Right now, for a limited time, receive a free video device plus free installation with a new home system. Guardian Alarm. We protect Michigan.
Now, coming to Woodward Sports, Woodward and Main Street, the Woodward Sports Network Detroit Lions Show. Let's go! Catch Gabrielle D. Phillips, Matt Broder, and Terry Foster for all the latest news on your Detroit Lions every week. Only on the Woodward Sports Network YouTube channel and woodwardsports.com.
Dreaming of a new home but feeling the financial pinch? Mark White & Associates, your trusted real estate experts, are here to help. Mark White and his team will pay up to $5,000 of your closing costs. That's right, I said $5,000. Call Mark White & Associates today at 248-290-8242 or visit them at markwhitesells.com. Again, call Mark White today at 248-290-8242 to make your dreams come true.
Let me tell you about our friends at Fairway Packing, because, guys, get your meats. For over 60 years, Fairway Packing Co. has provided Michigan's finest restaurants, hotels, and casinos with prime beef, Wagyu beef, and dry-aged beef. Experience the Fairway difference for yourself today. Visit the steak shop in Grosse Pointe Woods for grab-and-go steaks, or you can order online at fairwaypacking.com. Sir James says, Jeff, you triggered the chat. Well, I guess so. All I had to do was just point out something that I didn't like. People are like, damn you, Jeff, which is fine. I mean, hey, it's sports. We have opinions. If you guys disagree, that's okay. But I stand on what I said. And I also stand on what I said about Aiden Hutchinson, and I'm glad I was wrong, okay? I'm glad, because finally I've been calling for this man to wreck a football game, and he did that. He did that. 3 sacks. It's not just the pressure, but he absolutely, Sam Flannel, wrecked that entire football game. For the most part, whenever the Lions there would be a play made in the Dallas Cowboys backfield, first person you saw back there was Aiden Hutchinson. 4 tackle for losses and 3 sacks. 5 quarterback hits. Not pressures, hits. Hits. Not saying pressures don't affect the game. I don't want to have that argument today, Sam Flannel. We're having a good day, all right? Aiden Hutchinson had a hell of a game.
He did.
And when we talk about getting into form before the playoffs, the defense I mentioned earlier, part of that is Aiden Hutchinson. If he's getting into form now, before the playoffs start, that's a dangerous man. And this is a perfect time to do that for Aiden. And honestly, it seems like for everything you can say about Aiden, the bigger the stage, the better he plays. And you can't take that away from him.
It was quite simply the best game he's ever played in his NFL career. In a game where the Lions, I mean, I get it. They'd already wrapped up the division. They'd already wrapped up the 3 seed. But going to Dallas, proving that you can be on the same field as them and definitely have a great defensive performance against them, led by Aiden Hutchinson, it was a huge moment. It was a huge game. But the reality is that I'm not going to just take a victory lap or anything like that, even though a lot of people have been hating for a very, very long time. And, of course, one funky Lions fan comes out of his hole just to say something again, but I'm not even going to give him that, because I've stood firm on Aiden Hutchinson. I have said this all year, that he is playing a lot better than a lot of people are giving him credit for, but he's just not always getting home. And some of that is due to him, but a lot of that is due to the fact that he has some of the worst help in the entire NFL, especially when it comes to a bookend edge rusher, which is non-existent. And oh, by the way, the second best pass rusher on the team has missed the last 4 games. Here's the thing. Aiden Hutchinson, when you talk about his value to the Lions, and I think he is the best defensive player on the Lions. I know a lot of people say Alex Anzalone, but let me read you off some stats, what I do best. Aiden Hutchinson has 9.5 sacks. His next closest teammate has 5, and that is Aleem McNeil. Aiden Hutchinson leads his team in QB hits, the Lions, of course, which is also 7th in the NFL with 28. His next closest teammate is Alex Anzalone with 12. He is first on the team in tackles for loss with 11. The next closest is 7. That is Alex Anzalone and Brian Branch. And he is first on the team in forced fumbles with 3. And the next closest is a bunch of people who have 1 apiece. And oh, by the way, and these are stats according to Pro Football Reference Advanced Defense. I know you guys hate PFF, but maybe you guys don't hate Pro Football Reference as much because they're not quite as liberal in how they grade pressures. He leads the entire NFL in pressures with 56. The next closest is TJ Watt with 48. And the next closest Lion, by the way, is Alex Anzalone with a whopping 17.
Ooh.
17 to 56. So when I talk about him having no help, I think that is a little evidence right there. He is first in the NFL in quarterback hurries with 28. The next closest in the NFL is Max Crosby with 18. And his next closest teammate is Charles Harris with a whopping 9. He is second in the NFL in quarterback knockdowns with 18, only behind Nick Bosa with 21, and his second closest teammate is Alex Anzalone with 9. And he is 9th in the NFL in PFF grade for edge rushers, and he is 6th in the NFL in PFF grade for pass rush grade for edge rushers. The reality is Aiden Hutchinson has always been a great player. He's always been this guy. He just hasn't always gotten home, but not all of it is his fault. And that's kind of my problem, is that to me, he has always played well this season. But he just finally, is going to get the credit for it because he has a 3-sack game. And I want people to acknowledge that for once, because there are a lot of people who talk so much crap. I guess I am taking a little bit of a victory lap. Every time he would have a no-sack game, say, you're only good if you get a sack. And I know there's going to be some people that are going to say he should do this more often. You do realize if you have a 3-sack game every single game, you are the greatest team sport athlete in the history of sports. It's not always going to be this way, but he's played well the whole season, and Lions fans should respect him. He is the best defensive player you got, and he is your pass rush. Him and him alone. Him and him alone. And speaking of him, Aiden Hutchinson is him.
Oh, yeah, I knew that. I knew that was coming. And to be fair,
oh, Cody Ingles back. Thank you. I knew it. You came out of your hall the first he netted up in the
Cody
chat.
Ingle, let's see how fair the comment is.
It's probably not.
He says pressures are great, but when he overcommits and misses the quarterback and a huge gain happens, why do we celebrate the pressure? Saying he doesn't get home enough doesn't mean I don't think he's not great. I need that ding, ding, ding little sound effect, because he's right. That's where I've been. It's not that no one thinks he's great. It's that finally it's quarterback hits and sacks, right? Like in tackle for losses. I just think people live or die by pressures, and they kind of forget other things, right? And you don't do that all the time, but we argue about it. I think Cody's kind of right.
Okay, but here's the thing.
I agree with Cody.
Here's the thing, though. Because it's Aiden Hutchinson, I feel like the entire Lions fan base, particularly Sparty fans, have been psyoped into believing that pressures are as important as, oh, here I go again, water breaks. And that's just not,
No, it's water breaks.
If you didn't have Aiden Hutchinson on this defense, the Lions would be the worst defense in the NFL. That's reality.
But that's not what we're discussing, because you are correct.
Yes.
What he's saying is pressures are fine, but it's frustrating when he'll create a pressure and the quarterback will step up and make a play, and we're still like, well, he pressured the quarterback. That's all. At least he's pressuring the quarterback. At the end of the day, you got to be like, can you get a sack that ends drives? And he did that. He did that on Saturday, to be fair.
Let me say this. There is some validity to that. Not all of Aiden Hutchinson's pressures have resulted in negative plays, but is that always his fault? Sometimes the offense is
give you that.
Yeah, sometimes the offense is just going to make a play. Sometimes there's a breakdown in coverage, or maybe sometimes the quarterback has a 3-step drop and gets rid of the ball quickly, or sometimes there's no pressure off the interior to offset that. I mean, you saw in the Michigan game, for example, one of the reasons why they got home so much is because people were coming from every different direction on the blitz, linebackers, outside, inside. And with the Lions, you got more of that lately, especially with the emergence of Ife Melifonwu and even sending Brian Branch on some blitzes.
Which is true.
But for a lot of the season, it's been Hutch and Hutch alone. He doesn't have a bookend edge rusher. He had Aleem McNeil, who was having a great season as well. But the only thing where Aleem McNeil was even remotely close to in terms of stats for pass rushing was sacks. He didn't get a ton of consistent pressures, although he was good. Right. It was just all Aiden Hutchinson, and that's all that I'm saying. I'm glad to see that he had a game where he had 3 sacks, where he wrecked the game so much, but to me, he has been doing a lot of that all year. He just hasn't gotten the credit for it because of the count the sacks bro people.
Mr. Natural 467 says Hutch gatekeeper Sam, LOL. Darius says, can we talk about the natty this week for Michigan versus Washington? We'll get to that later. We got you, Darius, for sure. Let's say Just a Fan says, what is a pressure? ?
Oh my God. Just a Fan, another one. It's Just a Fan, one fucking Lions fan, and Cody Ingle. Did you guys wish that it was John Kaminsky who made the play? When you saw that it was a white guy in the backfield, you're like, please be 79, please be 79. Oh, damn, it was 97.
No, that is not. That is not what happened.
I know you were.
The good senator says Aiden is the only one getting home, and that's a fact.
I literally said that earlier on.
No, he's agreeing with you.
Yes. No, I know. Yeah. But that's the point.
Chill on him.
The next closest person on the team has 5. Aiden says 9.5.
Cody Ingles says, I've never been off the Hutch train. He's a beast, and agreed. The defense is probably trash without him. See, even Cody's breaking bread. You're going after Cody. Get on. Okay. All right. Cody. All right. Jake says, you can also get a sack and the next play be a 20-yard dot to negate the sack anyway. Which I think that's helping your argument.
I don't know.
I don't think he's coming after you. I don't think Jake. Okay. I think that's like, Sam is ready to just square up.
Sam's like, everybody can catch these strays.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, just a fan. Hurries plus knockdowns plus all sack plays. Half and full for players, just sacks is for teams. That's your definition of a pressure according to Pro Football Reference.
I got to throw the flag on this one. Is this fair? Booner, if you're going at Hutch, you're just being a troll. I don't know about that one. Hutch has been elite. I don't know about that one.
He's a Pro Bowler, though.
He is going to be a star in this defense. I'll give you that.
Yes.
But he is elite. You want to go through the elite edge rushers right now?
I mean,
You think he's Danielle Hunter at this point?
He's closer than you think. He's closer than you think.
I think Danielle he just isn't in elite. Like, he's like probably bottom of elite.
I'll tell you what.
And if he's not, then he's not elite.
Do you know who he's passed though? He's passed Rashawn Gary officially. I had put
Rashawn's not elite to me.
No, I know that, but I had put Rashawn ahead of him early on after that Packers game where he wrecked it. But now Aiden Hutchinson has taken his rightful spot as he's the third best defensive end in the NFC North because Montez Sweat has absolutely balled out since he's came to the Chicago Bears. But he's right on their heels at this point.
But do you think Montez is elite? Montez Sweat, elite. Not a good edge rush. Like, I'm talking elite.
All right, if we're going to talk about elite, I would say...
Give me like a couple guys you think of when you think of elite.
Micah Parsons, Nick Bosa.
Yes.
I would even say Max Crosby, Trey Hendrickson. Who am I?
Yeah.
Trey Hendrickson has 17 sacks this year.
Yeah,
TJ Watt.
Yeah.
I would say Khalil Mack and Josh Allen are there at this point.
Aiden in the same breath as those guys? I'm not hating. I'm just asking.
I think he is in the second tier. I think he's in like the Hassan Reddick tier. That's where I would put him right now.
Then that's fair.
In the Hassan Reddick tier.
We're good. Again, watch. People are going to run with that one. Jeff hating on Hutchinson. I'm just being honest.
No, that was fair.
He's really good. He's good at. I think he could be elite. I just think if you're crowning him right now, it's Andrew Klingerman. Jeff obviously doesn't watch the games. There it is, guys. I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. Let's see. Omar says he's not elite yet, but he will be next season when he takes another step. See, there you go. That's fair, Omar.
Well,
see, 100%.
And maybe I went at some people a little bit too hard today. But what are you guys going to say if he gets at least a half a sack next week? I think all of us, and I know I predicted 15. I understand that, so you can save your time. You can dunk on me if you want, but you can save your time because I already know. What if he ends up with a double-digit sack season with all of the pressure stats and the knockdown stats and the hit stats and the hurry stats and the tackles for loss stats and the forced fumble stats? If he has all of that, you have no choice but to say he had a great year because
absolutely.
If coming into the season you could have guaranteed a double-digit sack season along with having the most pressures and hurries, every single person in this room would have taken that. Every single person in the chat would have taken it. And here's the thing, he's having such a strong finish to the season, and I don't expect him to do anything different against the Minnesota Vikings. So he could still end up with a lot of the same counting stats numbers that we all predicted for him at the beginning of the year while still having all of those pressures, which you all think are useless, but I don't think so. Because some of those pressures are very, very impactful. And a lot of those pressures in which they result in positive plays for the offense, some of them he probably over pursues, but the reality is football is a team sport. You can pressure the quarterback, you can get there like a bat out of hell, but if a receiver is running a hot route and the quarterback hits him, it's not Aiden Hutchinson's fault. It's just sometimes the offense makes a play. Sometimes the corners, blow a coverage. It happens. It's not all. That's all I'm saying.
But here's my thing with this. Andrew Klingerman. He could have had 15 sacks if Houston played all year. Losing his sidekick was a big blow. And Danny Bennett says, "Is Max Crosby elite?" You know how you know why I just read those two things?
Why is that?
One's asking, well, if James Houston was there, he'd have 15 sacks. And someone else brought up Danny Bennett, good friend of mine, Max Crosby.
Yeah.
Who's generating pressure consistently for him.
Well,
I would say he's elite.
He has more help than Aiden Hutchinson does. Malcolm Kuntz has came along. Come on.
Malcolm Kuntz.
He has 7 sacks. He's a bookend. I'm not saying, and Max Crosby is better than Aiden Hutchinson.
But my point is, when you're elite, when you bring up, well, he just needs this guy to get 15 sacks. Like, I get it helps. I'm not denying that at all. It helps. That's the point there. Like, it doesn't matter who the hell you are. You just go get sacks. Like, I know it. I get it, but that's the difference. I mean, come on. That's the difference. These guys it just happens. Max Crosby just produces. He'll have the Raiders will end a game with 2-3 sacks. He'll have all 3 of them. Like, it's just he's elite. Aiden is trending that way. He just needs a little more help. I agree with you. I'm not taking that
except
away.
For a 2-game stretch where Malcolm Kuntz got 5 sacks. But I'm sure you put on your blinders glasses during that one. All of you, look it up. Take that for data. On an Aleem McNeil-less defensive line, Aiden Hutchinson has the worst help of any edge rusher in the NFL.
But he had Aleem for how long?
I know he did.
Okay.
And he had lots of great games with Aleem McNeil. He did.
He didn't have okay, I don't want to get into that. I was going to say he didn't have a sack for like 5 games with Aleem. So what are we doing?
What was the Lions' record in those games? How many times did he how many times was
now
he
you're
disruptive?
making me argue. Now you're making me argue. I don't want to do that. I'm done. I like Aiden. I think he's going to be a great player. I just think if you put him in, if you say he's elite right now, I just think that's okay. I just don't think he's there yet.
I said he's in the Hassan Reddick tier. He's not
That's
in
fair.
the, he's
See,
not
even
in the
me,
Crosby
you would-
or Bosa or Watt tier. Myles Garrett's another one. He's not in that tier yet. But it wouldn't shock me if he gets there maybe next year or the year after.
I'm with you.
Okay.
See, cool. We break bread there because I agree. I think Aiden will be there. But at this point, he's just, again, he does need help. And they got to get somebody in the offseason and in the draft. All right, let's go to break. When we come back, we'll get to Jamison Williams.
All right.
Made some plays.
He did.
Then he went out with an ankle injury. Damn it, because I had him over 2.5 catches on FanDuel. Botched my bet. He ended with 2. But when we come back, we'll get into that. But for right now, we need to hear about our friends from Guardian Alarm.
It's a new year. Let Guardian Alarm offer you customized solutions from real experts. Our professional technicians take the time to recommend security and automation solutions specific to your needs. 24/7 professional monitoring. Call us anytime, day or night, and know that a Guardian team member will stay on the phone as long as needed. Technology backed by people. Your safety and security deserves technology that's been proven to work and people have been proven to care. Call 1-800-STAY-OUT. That's 1-800-STAY-OUT. Guardian Alarm, your local security experts.
What? Oh, yeah. Nothing. G-G-G-G-A. Oh, sorry, I forgot. There we go. Oh, cheers, buddy. I think we need to get you a pick.
Savor the heart of home at Big Boy with our all-new down-home comfort dishes. Feast on home-style goodness with our Southern Comfort Chicken Bowl, veal parmigiana, and apple pie hotcakes. The down-home delight doesn't stop there. Potato pancakes are back. Dive into the richness of our perfectly crafted potatoes with our classic potato pancakes and our stuffed potato pancakes. Top off your meal with our new gingerbread shake, a seamless blend of creamy vanilla and sweet gingerbread flavors. Nothing beats the comforting taste of down-home cooking. Enjoy every bite, only at Big Boy.
Stop searching for a vehicle and start finding one. Les Stanford Chevrolet Cadillac makes it easy. We harness the power of multiple dealerships and own the biggest selection of GM brands in the area to get you the car you need. With the Les Stanford Group, you'll have access to 4 different dealerships, providing you with more makes, more models, and more choices. We're connected to more than 1,000 vehicles, and with so many high-quality CPO vehicles available, you'll find new car quality at pre-owned prices. You can start and end your search at lesstanford.com today.
Woodward Sports' own Tom Mazaway and Sam Stick Day will be hosting our Lions postgame show after every Lions game all season long. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel for his hot-off-the-press takes, game analysis, and Kool-Aid sipping celebrations. You won't want to miss it. Join Maz, Stick, and special guests each week immediately following every Lions game, exclusively on the WSN YouTube channel.
Has watching sports and arguing about sports made you a last-minute holiday shopper? Well, feeling more pressure than Jared Goff in the pocket, Jack Labrador has you covered. And actually, they just introduced something that I think you guys would enjoy a lot. You go to www.jacklabrador.gg. I believe it's a game, online game. You can play Jack Labrador, just you versus a CPU. Now, if you want to play with your friends, maybe a loved one, maybe a female, maybe a male, head over to jacklabrador.com and purchase a deck because it brings 3 games to the table. I look at it as a much, much better rock, paper, scissors. That's it. That's all. Jack Labrador, check it out. Welcome back to the Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network. Talking Lions, Cowboys, and not just that, but some of the storylines that unfolded from that football game. We got through Aiden Hutchinson. We met in the middle, which we typically we do. We argue, but we also meet in the middle on some things.
Yep.
Now let's get to something we may most likely disagree on. Or maybe we'll meet in the middle. Jameson Williams.
Mm-hmm.
I liked how they've been utilizing Jameson over the last couple of weeks. I have. The targets have increased. The route tree has increased. You could tell him and Jared Goff have a great rapport. And like I said about Aiden, trending in the right direction before the playoffs. Jameson Williams trending in the right direction before the playoffs. A lot of guys are. So for Jameson, he made one of the biggest plays of that entire game because of the timing of the play and the just the impact, the everything. And now he got injured on the play, unfortunately, but he burnt Deron Bland, which we knew he's prone to it. It happened against DK Metcalf. He struggles against speed guys, and J-Mo, and it was a beautiful ball by Jared. I got to give him credit because people will point out when he misses guys. We'll give him credit when he hits guys. He hit J-Mo downfield. It was a great pass. And for J-Mo, I think that's just another confidence builder for him to make a play like that on that type of stage in Jerry's world on primetime television. I think that's great for his confidence, and I'm excited for him moving forward. I think J-Mo is just continuing to impress. And I know he ended with 2 catches for 60 yards, but if he didn't get hurt, he'd have a couple more catches as well because he was getting more involved in that football game. And that's been the storyline, Sam, over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, the last couple of weeks. And here's the thing. Obviously, what Jameson Williams is best for and how I think he's going to most benefit the team are those big plays, are those deep shots. But over the last couple of weeks, he's been, I would say, a flashy possession receiver, which is fine, by the way, because I think he needed to show that he could do that. I think he needed to show that Jared Goff had the confidence in him that he would throw those contested balls to Jameson Williams and he would come down with him. He'd throw those timing routes on the sidelines and Jameson Williams would come down with them. And in a couple of cases, shake a couple defenders out of their shoes, even though he was right next to the sideline. Insanely impressive. But in this game, it was a tie game at the time. It set the Lions up with in the red zone on a 63-yard bomb by Jared Goff, which, oh, by the way, as you already mentioned, I've said some stuff about Jared Goff today with his 2 interceptions, but that was the best throw of his career. That hit Jameson Williams perfectly in stride. And, oh, by the way, Jameson Williams, I'll give him a lot of credit for this, burnt the guy who was having one of the best cornerback seasons in the NFL. You can argue that sometimes one of the reasons he does that is because he takes risks, but he's also prone to being burnt. But Deron Bland's coverage grade has actually been very good this season, and Jameson Williams completely dusted him, and Jared Goff hit him. So I'm hoping moving forward that maybe Jameson Williams can be that true number 2 wide receiver who, you give some of the intermediate routes to, you give some of the short routes to, but in the same game, take a shot or 2 with him because he has shown he can burn one of the best corners in the league. He showed that he can he can burn the Bears secondary, the Buccaneers secondary. So I think he's one that as the playoffs come along, he might be the difference. He might be the guy that when they need an explosive play, they go to Jameson Williams because really on the offensive side of the ball, it's him and Jahmyr Gibbs, your explosive players. But we were told, and I don't think it was just we were told, we needed to see it a little bit more, that maybe Jared Goff and Jameson Williams just didn't have that connection. Maybe Jared Goff didn't trust him. Maybe Jared Goff couldn't hit him because Jameson Williams had too much speed. Well, fortunately for the Lions, there have been a couple of examples in which Jared Goff has hit Jameson Williams, and you can see the chemistry growing. You can see Jameson Williams getting more targets and snaps. So I would say moving forward in the playoffs, he could make the difference in the Lions winning a game. And I'm somebody who's always been skeptical of J-Mo, but even I can see that.
Yeah, the longest pass up until that point was the Khalil Dorsey play.
Yeah.
Which was a 31-yard passing play off a fake punt.
Yeah.
Before that, if we're talking not special teams or trick plays, the longest pass, and I believe this was late in the game, was to Laporta. So at that time, 63-yard play by Jameson. It was huge. And they needed it on that drive specifically. It's just funny to me with just kind of the whole J-Mo storyline now is you're starting to see it now kind of play out. And we agreed, we came to this conclusion a couple weeks ago about how he's not absolved from blame. There's a part like Jameson. Maybe there's some maturity issues that people would bring up. I look at the talent, and he's a talented football player, and you're seeing it play out that way. And he's the only guy in this wide receiver core besides, I'd say, Khalif Raymond. And I think Donovan Peoples-Jones has a little more speed than people give him credit for, but that can just create a big play. You need a big play. Typically, Amon-Ra St. Brown is always making plays. Sam Laporta always making plays. But when you need a big play in the passing game, downfield, it's Jameson Williams. And the hands look good. I mean, you go through over his last couple of games, and you look at his receptions versus his targets. It's not the worst. It's not. It's considering where he was at the beginning of the season, and everybody had a word to say about J-Mo. 3 targets in Dallas, 2 catches, 6 targets against Minnesota, 5 catches, 7 targets against Denver, 4 catches. But still, he's catching the football. So we got to give credit to. People were quick to say he had no hands when he was dropping it. Now he's making plays when they're there. So credit to him.
The evidence shows over the last, I would say, 3 games or so that Jameson Williams has better hands than he was given credit for. And maybe he is a guy that actually has good hands, because even the Lions, I think it was Dan Campbell said that he may not ever be a guy who has the best hands or who is the guy who just catches like 8 to 10 balls. And I'm not saying that Jameson Williams will do that, but I think one of the best pieces of news from these past 3 games, other than the fact that J-Mo's getting more involved, is that we haven't really heard a word about his drops. And I was somebody who at the beginning of the year, I'll get on the stand for this, I even did like some pretty overdramatic performative theater mocking his drops. But even I, in these last 3 games, have to give him credit, because not all of those were easy plays. Not all of those were passes that were lofted into a wide open Jameson Williams. I mean, the last game it kind of was, but he still had to make the play. But in the previous 2 games, the contested catches, the catches where he knew he was going to get hit, the catches where when he came down, we're like, ooh, please don't be hurt, he still held on to the ball. It's very, very impressive. And I hope moving forward he can be a bigger part of this offense. I hope coming into next year, and I don't want to talk too much about next year, but when it comes to J-Mo, I'll do that. He can be that true number 1 wide receiver from day 1 and not start the season off with a suspension and be more involved with the offense from week 1. I hope that next year can be his breakout season.
And for J-Mo, it's impressive because for Amon-Ra St. Brown, he'll have his 6 catches for 80 yards. He'll have 10 catches for 100 yards. J-Mo can have 2 catches for 60-something yards, 3 catches for 100. He can get more yards and less catches. So when you talk about receiving production next season, when the rapport's there, I think J-Mo could have a breakout season, because if he's involved like this, yards are going to be easy to come by.
Mm-hmm.
He might not have as good of hands as Amon-Ra St. Brown, or he might not have as many catches as Amon-Ra St. Brown, but I'll tell you what, the receiving yards will be there because of the big plays he's able to generate. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll take phone calls. Guys, and we'll put the number in the chat. If you have a problem with anything I said, or if you have any things you want to chime in on, feel free. We'll talk about it in a little bit here. But first, got to tell you about our friends over at Big Boy, because wintertime in Detroit, always better with comfort foods from Big Boy. You could try the Southern Comfort Chicken Bowl. They got breakfast as well, potato pancakes, Santa Fe. What?
No, go ahead.
I don't know. JB wants some stuffed potato pancakes. Who knows? Classic potato pancakes. They got it all. Top it off with a new gingerbread shake for dessert. Stop by your local Big Boy today.
Where's the most convenient place to get that big fitness energy?
It's Planet Fitness.
Join today for just $1 down, $10 a month. With over 2,400 locations and equipment for every workout, you can get in, get energized, and get going. And with free fitness training and most clubs open 24 hours, everyone belongs in the judgment-free zone. So join today for $1 down, $10 a month, no commitment, cancel anytime.
Woodward Sports' own Tom Mazaway and Sam Stick Day will be hosting our Lions postgame show after every Lions game all season long. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel for his hot-off-the-press takes, game analysis, and Kool-Aid sipping celebrations. You won't want to miss it. Join Maz, Stick, and special guests each week immediately following every Lions game, exclusively on the WSN YouTube channel. Brace yourselves, Detroit. As the sun begins to set, two of Woodward Sports' brightest young stars will be taking the mic for a brand new show. Woodward Nights with Booner and Broder. The dog days in Detroit are over, and the boys are unleashed. Join in on the banter and hop on the bandwagon of the #1 night show on the internet. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel every weeknight from 8 to 10 p.m. Woodward Nights with Booner and Broder.
Glorious Cannabis is dropping their brand new ice water bubble hash infused pre-roll called Honolulu Blue. It smells so good. It's like the whiff of the first playoff win in 31 years. It's a gassy, aggressive strain named in honor of our Detroit football team. If you haven't had one of these ice water pre-rolls, then what are you waiting for? Come on now. Find them at a Dispo dispensary near you for 25% off. Check them out online today at gloriouscanna.com.
He's a pro.
We're back. I know he really is a pro. We're back. Morning Woodward Show, Woodward Sports Network. Let's do phone calls. I want to speak to the people. We were able to do it last week, and I think after this weekend, if it's Michigan, Alabama, Michigan, Washington, Dallas, Detroit, whatever it is, call in. I know, Brandon, we got some people waiting, so
yeah,
send
we
them through.
do, man. Hey, look, Woody from Pennsylvania, he called in even before the show started. He was like, I'll wait.
Oh, my
I want to be
gosh.
first. So
Woody, I number one, Woody, I appreciate your patience. I appreciate your support. And what's on your mind this morning? What do you want to talk about?
Hey, guys. How you doing? I have no problem with waiting. I just want to say that everything you guys said is pretty much spot on. My sentiments from the last 4 days, from Kool-Aid's argument about the NFL, your guys' take on the certain decisions that they made,
right,
and everything, and about the fourth down and everything else. But one thing I would like to chime in on that I haven't heard anybody say this, and I would like to point out that I think the referees are the fall guys here. My problem is with Roger Goodell. Ever since he became commissioner in 2006, all this stuff has been going on. And if you look up his bio, it says an American businessman. Well, to me, what he's turned the NFL into as a business. And my thing is, like in the Lions for 40 years, what if someone had told you, like, that doesn't matter what your team does, you're not allowed to win? And that's what I feel like is happening here, because that call, that flag came in well after the play. To me, Roger Goodell could easily make a phone call. He could get into the referee's ear and say, we can't let this happen. Now, I mean, you can say that I'm being too much of a conspiracy theorist, but this is why I say what I say. And I know, Sam, you like to back up your arguments with statistics. Well, I have one for you, and you guys tell me if I'm off on this.
Okay.
10 years ago in that playoff game, when they picked up the flag, if you go back and you look at the seedings in that particular season in the playoff bracket, the Lions, if they had won that game, they were going to go to Seattle. They weren't going to go to Green Bay. We all know their history with Green Bay back then. If they were going to go to Green Bay if they had won that game, something tells me that flag wouldn't have got picked up. I think the NFL was scared that the Lions would have had a challenge for Seattle. Even though it was in Seattle, the Lions had a defense that year that could hang with them.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't like the way the seedings were going to go down, because something tells me that if the Lions were going to go to Green Bay if they had won that game, things would have turned out a little bit different. So you go to the seedings this year. They don't want to see the Lions have another home game. They knew that the number 2 seed was there if they had won that game. To me, that's why I think, because if you noticed the week before, we got a lot of calls in Minnesota that we don't usually get, because I think the NFL wanted the Lions to win the division, because then they knew they'd have to play the Rams, and they could market Stafford against the Lions and golf against the Rams. Because they joke about this script and everything before the beginning of the seasons. Well, why does it seem like a lot of this stuff comes to fruition? Because now they can market the Lions versus the Rams all week, and then we have to go back to Dallas, because it just seems a little odd that we do what we can for the NFL. We've loaned our stadium to them. Remember when the Metrodome imploded? We gave them Ford Field for the Vikings to play. Then when the Bills had the blizzard, we gave them Ford Field for us to do. But yet, for some reason, the NFL has it out for us, and I think it's higher than the refs. I think the referees are the fall guy, and the reason why I say this is because it's just depressing, because it's like, this is the best that I've seen our organization run in so many years. They always try to say same old Lions, but it's like we've done everything right according to plan. Like we've turned things around. We don't say the same old Lions, but it looks like the NFL says, guess what, guys? It's like last year they served this up at the end of the year. They flexed that game to Green Bay for Aaron Rodgers' coronation so he could make the playoffs. They did that on purpose. Then they served this up to Kansas City for the ring ceremony week 1. They wanted to see if we
play with the big boys, and we did it. Then we get served up for Jimmy Johnson's Ring of Honor. And once again, and I know the Lions made some plays and did some things that weren't supposed to be done, and they messed up a little bit, but the point is, I was very proud of my team that I watched them go toe-to-toe with them, and they won that game, but then it was like the NFL said, no, we're not letting you do this. Because to me, the NFL, I know gambling's a big part of it, and honestly, I've stopped gambling since that game. I'm not giving them any more of my money. The thing is like, I feel like the NFL has their teams, like the 49ers, the Dolphins, the Cowboys, the Ravens, the Eagles, the Bills. They have their select teams, and we're not one of them. And it's like, Sam, I want to say this to you because I'm a Michigan fan. Look at what the NCAA has done to Michigan all year. Who's to say that if that game's close next Monday night, that somehow the NCAA won't get involved and you might phantom flag against Michigan? Because we all know they don't want them to win. I mean, you just can never tell. And it's like, I don't know what the bias is against ours. Well, I say ours because, Jesus, I feel like I live there. I wish I lived in Michigan. but I don't. But it's like, I just I just feel like that we just always end up on the short end of the stick, and it's like they're laughing at us. It's like Dean Blandino comes out with this video with a hat on when this guy was partying on the Cowboys bus 10 years ago during the damn playoff game. It's like, come on.
Yeah, and Woody, by the way.
It's like they're just slapping us in the face.
Yeah, Woody, I just sat back and listened, and I love conspiracy theories, and I do think it's hard not to think of it. I mean, Dan Campbell talked about it when he was in New Orleans. I mean, you know how many times New Orleans got screwed? Like, I bet it's not just now Lions are the biggest highlighted one because the franchise seems to just keep getting screwed by referees. But I think this is a problem, like you kind of said. Now, I don't know how true it is, but the NFL has certain teams, and I do think, hey, you got Jerry Jones. It's Jimmy Johnson, Ring of Honor night. Like, Woody, it's an interesting conversation. I don't know how true it is, but it's worth it. It's worth the combo. So I appreciate you bringing it up, Woody, and I appreciate you waiting. Number one.
Thank you. Could I say one thing before I go?
Yeah, just make it quick.
This is for my man JB over there. I know he's a I know he's a WWE fan. When the draft rolls up there in April, I want Lions fans to give Roger Goodell the Dominic Mysterio heat, where they boo him, where he can't say a word and he has to give the card to somebody else to read off the players' names.
Oh my God, that would be amazing.
I would love to see that.
Love that.
Oh,
Woody. Love that. That would be amazing.
All right, Woody, we appreciate you, man. You're welcome back anytime.
All right, guys. Thank you. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year. You can, and by the way, I know people like to not like the conspiracy theory there. Appreciate Woody. He was patient. We let him get his theory out, although, might not agree with it. Hey, it's worth the conversation. All right, bring in the next caller. Who do we got?
Hey, man, we got Mr. Energy himself. We got Devin from Inkster.
Yo.
Man, Devin, talk to me, man. What's on your mind? Do you hear what we said earlier? Anything you don't agree with? Or maybe agree with? What up, though?
Fuck. I disagree with a lot of fucking shit that happened on Saturday. Flannel.
Yo.
Go Blues! Suck it, everybody! We got one more to go. Yep. I've been waiting to say that shit on the air for the longest.
Yeah, great meeting you yesterday, by the way, man.
Flannel.
Yeah, you're the man, and I'll tell you what, the job is not finished, but damn, that one felt so good. Oh my God, go Blue, go Blue.
Oh, it felt so fucking good.
Yep,
go fucking Blue. But yeah, overall, watching that game on fucking Saturday, I mean, we could come up with many excuses on how the refs screwed us, but the bottom line is that we didn't perform to the top tier that we should have been performing. The only great part out of that is seeing how our defense is trending, and to know that we're at least forming a complete game, but we're still running into these fucking issues where we have Goff running away from everybody, not be able to throw it, these interceptions. It's hard to fix and it's hard to say as a fan, but I think overall as a collective group of fans, we have this issue of the same old Lions fans versus the new generation fans, the new money fans.
Right.
When my dad, Jeff, you could agree on this, our dads are the show me it, and I'll believe it. Meanwhile, we're banging on the fucking table every week saying, we need this, we need this, we need this, and we need this. And it's not getting anywhere. And it's just upsetting us as fans. It's upsetting us as a group, a collective. And if we all put that one energy into how much we hate the fucking NFL versus Detroit Lions, it's the reason why it's Detroit versus everybody. We came up with that damn slogan. No one else did.
Right.
It's a reason. If we all kumbaya and stop fucking trying to go after Flannel for his takes, because believe it or not, he's on TV and while you're sitting on the couch and he's giving you takes. Ain't that about a bitch? So,
I don't even
rejoice and just be glad. Be glad. Yeah, rejoice and just be glad at the season that we have this year.
Absolutely.
Because we weren't even objectively supposed to have this season. Let's be honest. We're 3 years ahead. We're 3 fucking years ahead. The Detroit Lions have never been 3 years ahead of anything besides turnovers.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair, Devin. I'll give you that one. So Devin. So did you see the referee the little training video? Looked like it was from the 1980s. That was made on like a VCR tape. Like what'd you think?
Yeah,
about that?
you know the old Burger King with a polo shirt telling you how to do your job. Apparently, it's kind of contradicting and it's kind of really fucking pissed me off. That pissed me off beyond reason because I was just like, are we literally looking at a 90s informational video right now on how to check in? Oh, okay, all right, we're being that petty. And then to go on Bleacher Report, I think it was yesterday, Michael Parsons had the nerve to go on there and be like, yeah, my team played good. I don't know what happened about the Detroit Lions with that play call and everything. And meanwhile, you have his whole comment section calling him a fucking bum. And you know damn well you lost that game. And the best comment that I saw up on there, are you going to talk about how Sewell put you in the box for a full quarter? He looked at that comment, and you could see the distaste in his mouth. And I wanted to screenshot it just to send it to you guys. Because that shit right there, stop giving Hutch a fucking problem.
Yeah.
Because if you got guys like that getting put in boxes by Penei Sewell, a fucking 3-year rookie, and everybody's running around saying Parsons is the man, I don't really know about that shit.
No,
he can't fucking go against Sewell.
Yeah.
I mean, Samoa's still different.
They really are, though. I think that, you know what, Devin, that is true. Samoans are built different. And I think Penei, it speaks volumes to how good Penei Sewell, how great he is, to be honest. I don't think to me, it's not like a knock on Micah. I think it just speaks how really fucking good Penei Sewell is. Less so than Micah's not as good as everyone thought he was. I don't think it's anything like that. But, Devin, I appreciate the call. I should see you later on today, right? I should see you later.
Absolutely. Yep,
right.
Absolutely. I'll be up there.
All right, I'll see you, man. Appreciate the phone
thanks
call.
for everybody get their damn shirts, man.
Yes, sir. There you go, Devin.
Absolutely. Y'all have a blessed one.
Yeah, you too. Yeah, Devin.
All right, fellas.
Devin hooks the boys up with some great merchandise. He's the man. All right, let's go to break. We'll take the rest. Whoever's waiting, be patient. We'll get to you as soon as we come back from break. First, we got to hear about our friends from Swiss Insurance.
Yes. Do you have football on the brain? Of course you do. Now is the perfect time as the football season is winding down and Michigan's about to play in the national championship game to shop your home and auto insurance. Shop it like a pro with Swiss Insurance. They cover Woodward Sports Network and they should be covering you too. Ask for Mark at Swiss Insurance today at swissins.com or call 248-800-4177. Again, that is 248-800-4177, Swiss Insurance.
Come to Lady Jane's for an award-winning haircut experience and register for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to win an all-expenses-paid suite for the 2024 NCAA tournament for you and 5 of your best buds. Lady Jane's open 7 days a week. Walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome.
Brace yourselves, Detroit. As the sun begins to set, two of Woodward Sports' brightest young stars will be taking the mic for a brand new show. Woodward Nights with Booner and Broder. The dog days in Detroit are over, and the boys are unleashed. Join in on the banter and hop on the bandwagon of the #1 night show on the internet. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel every weeknight from 8 to 10 p.m. Woodward Nights with Booner and Broder. Join Woodward Sports' own Jeff Iafrate, along with special WSN guests for the most anticipated Lions season in decades. Filled with different surprises and expert analysis. You're not going to want to miss out. Go to our Woodward Sports YouTube channel on Sundays and tune in live from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m.
Let me tell you about our friends over at Planet Fitness. I'll tell you one thing. Panay Sewell, he might not look like he goes to Planet Fitness, but he goes to Planet Fitness. That man, he's a man amongst boys. And you could go and be a man amongst boys. You go to Planet Fitness, you pay $10 a month. Yeah, I said it. $10 a month. No commitment. It's easy to do, and it's the experience you need. You squeaky clean gym, full body workout in just 30 minutes, and of course, all memberships include fitness training. No matter where you are, there's always a Planet Fitness close by. More than 50 in Metro Detroit, and thousands more throughout the world. We're back. It's the Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network, taking phone calls, speaking to the people, getting the people's opinion on what transpired over the weekend. Bring in the next caller. Who do we got?
Next up, we got my man DJ from Ipsy. Shout out to my Ipsy kinfolk.
What's going on? Welcome to the show, my man. What's on your mind?
What up, though, fellas? How y'all doing?
Good. What up, though? What do you want to talk about?
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir. We can.
All right, bet. I agree with the previous callers and what they was talking about. You know, I think it's not a foregone conclusion that, you know, the NFL definitely got something against the Lions. I'm not gonna dive deep into the rabbit hole. You know, I was pissed off when it happened on Saturday, and I've had a headache ever since. I'm just now kind of getting over it. But you know, it is what it is at this point. But I'm gonna take a different perspective on it, and Dan kind of touched on this from his press conference the other day. I think that this loss was the biggest blessing for the Detroit Lions. Primarily because, you know, of course, you would rather the Lions lose right now than to lose in the playoffs.
That's true.
And to add to that, you would rather something like this to happen to the Lions than in the playoffs. I think the situation playing out how it did, for one, you know, we can expect that particular referee or officiating crew in particular to not be in the playoffs at all. So I think that's a plus in itself. Yeah, it cost us the number 2 seed, but honestly, I got faith in the Lions on the road. And I think a lot of people don't give the Lions credit for how good they really are on the road. I mean, even going back to last year, you know, when we were going on a run after that 1-6 start, I mean, they were getting some pretty impressive wins on the road. You know, I think that the defense has definitely been stepping up. And you know, especially when we're literally about to have CJ, Aline, James Houston back, I think adding those three players, I think it's definitely going to make the defenses go to a whole new level. Now, I do think that, you know, there's some things you got to figure out with, you know, how are you going to use CJ? How are you going to use Kirby? How are you going to use Iffy? Honestly, I think you can probably I think you should experiment and maybe put Brian Branch or Iffy at that cornerback 2 spot. Put CJ back at safety, or if you want to run a different package where you run a 6 DBs where you got, you know, CD Deuce and Brian Branch on the nickels, you have Iffy and, you know, Kirby as your safeties. I mean, I think that can be another potential look. I mean, I just think that there's a lot of optimism for the Lions to use this as motivation. And, you know, like Dan say, look, control theory, pure octane. it's up for every single team. And I feel bad for the Vikings because I know they kind of still pissed off, about how they lost that game when we last played them to secure the division. But, man, I think the rest going over the lines was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. And I don't know if any of you seen the movie Office Space and the guy that got pissed off because the stapler got taken and he burned the whole fucking building down. That's what I see for the Lions, man. Burn the whole fucking shit down. Fuck up everybody's expectations. Go out there and handle business, and look. Just let everybody know, look, the Lions are putting in the work to change their fortune. And I believe in this team.
No, JB, I know you'll understand this reference. I like the Office Space one, by the way, but also in Harold and Kumar. I just want to burn this motherfucker down. So I was going to burn this motherfucker. Okay.
Yeah. Burn this motherfucker down.
I love it. But you know what? Here's the thing. I know that we are all depressed about Saturday. I know probably a lot of us just stayed up all night with blank stares, didn't get to bed till 2, 3 a.m., had a hard time watching football on Sunday. But at some point, and I appreciate Dan Campbell for this, I think this shows a lot about him as a leader. You have to turn the page, and if you want to avoid depression, if you want to be excited about this season moving forward, you have to find a way to spin it, and I think Dan Campbell is doing it. I think the players are doing it as a blessing in disguise because I do think they're motivated. They did show that they can go to an environment like Dallas and their defense even holding up. I mean, that was a thing of beauty. And to your second point about the secondary, the thing is, this secondary has a lot of young, talented players, particularly at the safety position. But at the corner position, they don't really have a corner one. Cam Sutton just got off getting burned. Jerry Jacobs has been bad for most of the year. Kendall Vildor, he did have that big play on CeeDee Lamb forcing that fumble, but he's not your ideal starter. Maybe you could move some guys around on the defensive side of the ball. Maybe even a Brian Branch at corner. I don't hate it. That was a great call, DJ. I appreciate your optimism moving forward and for the Lions to just burn it down. Burn down.
Burn this motherfucker down.
Burn this motherfucker down. DJ, that's a great call, my man. Appreciate it. You're welcome back anytime, all right? Good stuff.
Absolutely. Hey, one more thing, man. Coming from a State fan, Michigan, go get that shit done. Michigan, go get it done, man.
Thank you.
No, look, like I said, I'm a State fan. So, look, I usually talk shit, and I tell my boys all the time, look, I don't cheer for y'all until y'all play them fucking sorry-ass Buckeyes. But go get that shit done.
I appreciate it.
Please.
Hell yeah, DJ. I love it.
Get it done.
I love it.
Because if you don't, we gonna talk that shit.
I know.
DJ, I love the call. Great stuff today, man. Good stuff. Oh my gosh, she's cracking me up. Get that shit done, Flannel. You know what he means by that. Get that shit done.
Yes, I do.
Sounds like you got that. It sounds like Neil Rule too. Get it done, because I'm gonna talk shit if you don't get it done.
I know he's offline now, but just remember though that it has to go the other way. If Michigan, which they're probably going to inevitably finish off their miserable basketball season, then we are allowed to talk shit if Michigan State doesn't win the national championship. I understand that I would have no leg to stand on, but at the same time, you guys in your football program don't have a leg to stand on when it comes to football. So I just want it to be an even trade. That's all. That's all.
He said, get that shit done.
Yeah.
Bring in the next caller.
Yeah, look, we got Jay Hart from Detroit.
Jay Hart from Detroit. Welcome to the show, brother. What's on your mind? Hello?
What up, though?
What up, though? Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Hello? Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Hey, man, what up, though?
What up, though?
Golly, man, they're trying to get into the Dawson this summer.
Let's go, baby.
But, man, nonetheless. Hello, can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can. Yep, Jay Hart, we can hear you.
Hello? Okay, so well, first of all, I just want to shout out and say, go green, go white.
Oh, we got another.
That's how we're gonna kick it off right now. Because first of all, our ladies basketball team just got cheated last night with the Caitlin Clark buzzer beater. I clearly went off after the buzzer sounded, but hey, that's nonetheless. But hey, let's talk about the Detroit Lions. Jesus Christ. Woo! Can't wait to get this division out the way and get started with the playoffs because, man, fuck Jerry Jones.
Right.
Fuck Jerry Jones.
Agreed.
That's literally. Man, what can we do to make it in the playoffs and not let these folks think that this shit is just a fairy tale? Because a lot of people are thinking that this shit is just a fairy tale, and I don't really get that. I don't really get how people just got this ongoing conclusion about Detroit and what we got going on here. So I just want to hear from you guys to just get a little feedback on what y'all think the playoffs and what the hopes is going to be this year.
I think the whole fairy tale aspect of it is just because the Lions have been such a downtrodden franchise for so long. I do think it's built for sustained success. I think we all believe in that, especially by the way Brad Holmes has drafted over the last 3 drafts. But there is an element, especially if the Lions do make a deep playoff run, even if it seems like the NFL might not love it and the Lions got screwed by that call, that I feel like they will capture the hearts of some NFL fans throughout certain team demographics where, if my team doesn't win, let's root for the Lions because it's a good story. I think it's something that the Lions can embrace. And oh, by the way, when you go throughout this season, the Dallas game notwithstanding, the Lions have gotten some of those things that to go their way that haven't gone their way in the past, like the Kadarius Toney drop that led to a pick 6 by Brian Branch, like knocking Derek Carr out of the game against the New Orleans Saints, for example. Things like that. Right. And I'm not discrediting those wins. It does seem like there's better fortune on the Lions side this year. Again, that Dallas game notwithstanding, and I do think there is a faction of NFL fans that are going to root for the Lions, especially if their team isn't in it, because it's a good story. It's a phenomenal story.
Yeah, no question. Jay Hart, we appreciate the phone call. You're welcome back anytime, all right? All right, appreciate you.
Definitely. Sorry about that. I guess my AirPods was going in and out.
No worries. No worries at all, bro. We appreciate you. Jay Hart calling the show there. We're going to end it here. We'll go to mailbag. For anybody that we didn't get to, we'll take phone calls another time this week. Just call back in. We'll get you on. We'll try and get as many people as we can on. But first, I got to tell you about our friends, Sam Flannel has to tell you about our friends at Premier Pets.
Oh, yes, the read that I wait for all show long. Jake and Milo, they had a great Christmas, and I got all of their stuff at the Premier Pet near my house, and they always give great service. They have the best toys, best food, best treats, and I always give my pets the best, and you should give your pets the best, and do not settle. Premier Pet Supply is hands down Michigan's best pet store. Family owned and operated for over 30 years with 13 Metro Detroit locations, over 60 brands of food, lowest prices, and curbside home delivery. Premier Pet Supply. Give your pet the best. Visit their website at premierpetsupply.com.
Since the dawn of moving people, Chevrolet has led the way. The world of transportation is changing. At Feldman Chevrolet, we are leading the charge forward. With every electric vehicle, every mile traveled, one Feldman at a time. The company that puts more Chevys on Michigan roads is now the #1 name for Chevy electric vehicles.
Your home is your most important asset. Flexibility in the sales process is key. When you work with Mark White & Associates, you can cancel at any time, for any reason, without penalty. Speaking of flexibility, check this out. Who you work with matters. Hire the best broker in the game.
Now, coming to Woodward Sports, Woodward and Main Street, the Woodward Sports Network Detroit Lions Show. Let's go! Catch Gabrielle D. Phillips, Matt Broder, and Terry Foster for all the latest news on your Detroit Lions every week. Only on the Woodward Sports Network YouTube channel and woodwardsports.com.
18 locations, Feldman dealership. There's always one in your backyard. Visit feldmanauto.com to find the location nearest to you. You can catch Woodward Sports live like this upcoming Monday to preview the national championship game at Feldman Chevrolet in Novi, again, every other Monday. And then once you get a car at Feldman Chevrolet, you drive it all the way to Hamlin Pub to pick up their game day specials, starting at only $8. We have post-game shows typically at the one in Rochester, but if not, trust me and my dad, it's our favorite spot to go. We'll tune in, watch Lions games, any game, Michigan games, NFL games in general. They got great game day specials. Check them out. And you see the wings in the photo. If you're tuning in live viewing, it's delicious. Hamlin Pub, check it out. We're back. It's mailbag time. Morning Woodward Show, Woodward Sports Network. Let's get to some of these comments because they're coming in and people are asking questions already. Eduardo, shout out to you, Eduardo, by the way. Mailbag, defense has shown me they can contend for an NFC title game. Offense has disappeared against top defenses. Can Sam tell us how the Lions have done against top 12 defenses this year?
Well, not so good against the Ravens, not so good against the Cowboys. I'm trying to think who else they've played that's a top defense.
And Eduardo,
hold on. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt, but like the Vikings actually had a pretty damn good defense coming into the game, and the Lions took them apart. I'm not saying that personnel-wise they're a top defense, but Brian Flores has had them playing pretty damn well, and Daniil Hunter was neutralized. I'll just say that.
And that's, Sam, and that's where I was going with this. And I get, Eduardo, what you're saying, because defensively, if they play like they did on Saturday, yeah, you can make a playoff run. But let's not just, throw the offense under the bus. Like we haven't been arguing they're the reason they're winning games all year. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I get what you're saying, Eduardo, but this offense I'm not worried about at all. I'm not. Ben Johnson in that game on Saturday, there was questionable calls. I get all of that. But still, this offense is your best shot at making a Super Bowl. End of story. Like the defense, yeah, if they show up, it helps. But that offense, you live and die by what they do offensively. That's been the storyline. I think it'll continue to be the storyline.
Yeah, and not to excuse this in any way, shape, or form, because it's certainly not acceptable given the fact that the Lions on paper are one of the best offenses in the league. But there have been a lot of offenses that have gone to Baltimore, or even played at home against Baltimore, or went to Dallas and didn't play well. It wasn't just the Lions. But they do have to be better in those games.
Andrew Klingerman, he says, mailbag Jeff, with how we played against the Cowboys and all the defensive players getting back, I think we can make it to the NFC Championship game, compete with the 49ers. Your thoughts? Andrew, and I'm not there yet, but that's okay. Like I make this argument with Booner, and he feels like they can and they will make the NFC Championship game. I'm not there yet. And that's okay. I think the Lions are ahead. I think that's been a common theme with phone calls and I agree with it. The Lions are ahead of schedule, and that's credit to Dan Campbell. That's credit to Brad Holmes for them finding players that immediately make an impact. I just don't know if they have enough defensively to make that type of run, Andrew. But certainly with how this offense is set up and how they win in the trenches, I think they can't compete with anybody. I just don't have them in the NFC Championship game. That's just my opinion. But Andrew, I wouldn't say you're crazy. I'm not going to say you're crazy for saying they can make a run.
Well,
I don't mind it at all.
I think they showed the formula against Dallas, at least defensively.
Right.
Tony Pollard got nothing and liked it, like every running back that's gone up against the Lions this year. You got to do that, and they've shown the ability to stop the run. You have to create some turnovers because the Lions have also showed a propensity to give up a lot of yards, particularly through the air, giving up a lot of great games to great wide receivers, and that's probably going to happen, but you got to create some turnovers, and you have to get after the quarterback, which they did against the Cowboys. Aiden Hutchinson had the best game of his life, but in some games, even getting pressure on quarterbacks was a bit of a problem. They showed that they can do it at Dallas, which is going to be a playoff team, which is going to be a team you're probably going to have to face in the playoffs, and that gives me more hope than I had before that game, at least in their defense being able to hold up in the playoffs.
Jake says, mailbag, does DC still have a shot at Coach of the Year for bringing back this Lions franchise, or do other coaches doing more with less take the cake this year? Jake, me and you argue about this, Sam, and I believe Dan for a while there was first. He ain't anymore. And that's I think he's in the race. I don't think he'll win it. If you're telling me who will win the award, if I had to pick somebody, I would say it's Kevin O'Connell. Or excuse me, Kevin Stefanski. No, not Kevin O'Connell. Kevin Stefanski. Sorry, Kevin Stefanski, because the quarterback play, like you've had 4 different quarterbacks, no Nick Chubb. Amari Cooper's missed a game or two. I got to give credit to Kevin Stefanski. I think he wins the award, but I do think Dan Campbell, you could argue he's top 3. Now, if you're giving me just some names, I think it'll be Kevin Stefanski, Shane Steichen, DeMeco Ryans. That'll kind of be your top 3, I think, by the end of the year, because, again, those guys have done technically more with less. Even though I think Dan Campbell, what he's done is significant, I think people have just they just acknowledge the Lions have arrived. Does that make sense?
Well,
they're just kind of here. They're a good team.
As much as we want to say that any Lions coach getting him to a division title should win Coach of the Year, should get a statue and all of that, here's the reality. And I hate to bring this up, but I think it matters in terms of Coach of the Year consideration. The Lions were the favorite to win this division, and they've done it. Absolutely great season that they've had. But I would go with Kevin Stefanski as well, just because of all the injuries the Browns have been able to overcome, particularly at the quarterback position. But you also forget Nick Chubb as well, who was the engine of this offense for many, many years. He's been out for most of the season, and he's not going to be there for the playoffs. I mean, 38-year-old Joe Flacco off of his couch is winning games with this team. But they also won games with P.J. Walker and Dorian Thompson-Robinson. It's spectacular what he's done. But I also think if either the Colts or the Texans win the AFC South, I would give whatever coach consideration, because last year the Texans had 3 wins. Last year the Colts had 4. So if they go from worst or next to worst to first, that would be spectacular.
This comment, Andrew Klingerman, Campbell should have won it last year. We're good now, so they're not going to give him his flowers. That, you know what? That's 100% true. I think last year you could have made the argument.
You could have. It's just one of those arbitrary. The Giants made the playoffs and the Lions didn't.
Right.
The Lions got you. And there's also, I think, the argument of you can't reward Dan Campbell for making a couple questionable decisions and the team getting off to such a bad start. Like, he helped to bring them back from the mess that he had a role in creating. I'm not saying it was all him. I'm just saying that they didn't make the playoffs. They were 9-8 and they started off too slow.
Let's see. Dante says, Mailbag, JB, you pumped for AEW tonight?
Oh, hell yeah. They're coming off a pay-per-view, so now I kind of want to see what's going to happen. You know, hopefully we get to hear from Adam Cole. Samoa Joe is supposed to be in the house talking as well, too. Orange Cassidy is in battle as well. My man Swerve Strickland. Swerve when I drop, you know. Drop. Don't get me started, but yeah, it should be an exciting Dynamite Rampage tonight.
I love when JB he just lights up. That's my favorite thing ever, man. Yeah, JB smooth. Jesse Adams says, Mailbag, would you guys rather sign Jackson to a deal, meaning Jonah Jackson, or get a guard in the draft, or do both? Second question, Sam, are you worried that Washington OC won't take the 4th off like Reese did? Okay. It's a packed question. The first one, would you guys rather they sign Jackson to a deal or get a guard in the draft, or do both? I think you can make an argument for both. I would say sign Jonah Jackson, though.
He might be the odd.
Just because what did they pay Vitae this year?
Yeah.
Vitae was making like $10 million.
Yeah.
So cut Vitae, give him 12.
Well, it also may be made more possible if they don't re-sign Goff. But that's another discussion for another day. I think he might be one of those who is a cap casualty if they re-sign Goff to a long-term deal. I would like to re-sign him, but I'm also open to not. And as far as the second question goes, Washington's the best offense that Michigan has faced by a country mile. Of course, you have to be concerned with, Michael Penix and the 3-headed monster at wide receiver. I don't know if Dylan Johnson's going to play, but they also have the Joe Moore award-winning offensive line. The reality is Alabama, as much as we talked about, as much as I give them credit for that win, as much as we have to give credit to the SEC physicality, cannot sniff Washington's offense. So yes, I am concerned, but I think Michigan has the defense that can counteract that.
Jake says, Millsack, are we seeing a changing of the guard in college football conferences as the Big Ten positioning themselves to take their turn as the top dog conference for a while? I mean, you look at next year.
Yeah.
It's a lot more even of a playing field. And I'll say this too, I think NIL, that helps as well. But yes, I think the Big Ten, 2 Big Ten teams technically are playing in the national championship game.
Yeah, you got Oregon, you've got USC.
Come on.
think about this. You got Michigan, you got Washington, you got Ohio State, you got Oregon, you've got Penn State. Those are teams, and you can say what you want about Penn State, you can say what you want about Oregon, that are littered with NFL talent, that Michigan and Washington are playing each other in the national championship. And that's not a slight at the SEC, but Alabama, I don't think that they are going to. I think that Nick Saban run is over. I don't think that they're going to win another national championship in the next 5 years or so. And you see it. You saw what they ran out at the skill positions this year. You saw what they ran out at the quarterback position. That is not the standard that Alabama has built. You saw what they ran out at the offensive line besides for J.C. Latham. That is not the standard that Alabama has been used to. So I think the Big Ten could be king next year because the Pac-12, you could argue, was king this year, and a lot of those teams are coming to the Big Ten.
And now it's dead.
Yeah.
R.I.P. the Pac-12.
R.I.P.
Let's see. Let's get another question or two here before we close out the show. Ramon says, Vaitai restructured. He only made $1.2 million only this year. Doesn't need to be cut. He's a free agent and likely retired. Yeah, I did forget about that. He did restructure. I think it's an interesting question with the whole Jonah stuff. It's actually making me think. That's why I appreciate the question, Jesse. You could probably draft a guard, but I also don't want to pick apart anybody on this offensive line. They're just playing so well together.
Because for a while there, we were talking about, especially in the Packers game, man, when Jonah Jackson's there, it just runs like a well-oiled machine. Right. We got Colby Sorsdahl. It's so
like
tough,
Jesse
though.
says, I wouldn't mind Trevor Keegan from Michigan.
Hey.
Yeah, and I don't even need to ask you. I know exactly what you're going to say to that. I know you like that.
Hell yeah, Trevor Keegan.
Matt Ed, mailbag Lions always missing out on awards because someone does something they never done before. Dan didn't make the playoffs last year. Sauce over Hutch, Stroud over Laporta. So frustrating. That is so true. It seems like when it's something supposed to happen, something historic happens that replaces it. He is kind of right.
Because here's the reality.
He is right.
You can say that for this year even. Dan Campbell has had, to me, a coach of the year caliber season. And you could argue last year to some extent. But the Giants made the playoffs. And even this year, what Kevin Stefanski's doing, what Shane Steichen and D'Amico Ryans are doing. And last year, the Aiden Hutchinson thing. I argued for a long time that he should have been Defensive Rookie of the Year. But at some point, you just had to give it up to Sauce Gardner, who was the first team All-Pro as a rookie corner. That nobody does that. But Sauce Gardner did in the year where Aiden Hutchinson had a great rookie season. So, yes, I understand. And yeah, the whole... you can point to Stroud, but you can also point to the fact that Puka Nacua is going to break the record for rookie receiving yards. Yeah, that's another one. And C.J. Stroud is having... it's C.J. Stroud's award because he's come back and they're going to probably make the playoffs. But yeah, even with Puka Nacua.
Jesus, he is so right. Matt, when you think about it, yeah. It's like last year. We brought up the Dan Campbell award, but it's more than that. It's the Hutchinson stuff.
Yeah.
It's just... That is crazy. Dante, mailbag, did you guys see that the Alabama quarterback entered the transfer portal yesterday? Which quarterback? Their starting quarterback?
I feel as though I would have known that.
Yeah, it might... Watch. You got to put the name, Dante, because when you say that, I'm like, Jalen Milroe? But watch, it'll be their second or third string quarterback. But regardless, we'll get out of here. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Seriously, all throughout our discussions, whether you agree or disagree with me, I love chopping it up with you guys. And I love taking phone calls. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll get right into Minnesota. We'll start breaking down that game. I saw questions as well, people chiming in. Should the Lions play their starters? We'll have that conversation tomorrow. John Macaroon will be joining us. We'll ask him as well. Maybe we'll get Mike on Friday again. We'll get him some of his help to break down the game. But again, thank you everybody. Jeff Ifredi, Sam Flannel, Brandon Dent, JB. From the Morning Woodward Show crew, check out the rest of the programming here on Woodward Sports. Have a great Wednesday, and we'll catch you tomorrow. Deuces!
I'm good. I woke up yesterday. I'm ready, man. I've got controlled fury, and I'm ready to go. I'm absolutely ready to go. I don't go the other way. So, and the team won't either. We're on a mission, and we're not going to feel sorry for ourselves and wallow in everything. We had plays to make, we didn't make them. And it's a tight game, a good opponent, playoff type atmosphere, and you got to make that one extra play that we didn't. And so we will use this as fuel. I got pure octane right now. I woke up, I'm ready. So we're moving forward.